morning and welcome to the National Television's Network Live proceedings of the St. Lucia Parliament today. My name is Virgil Leonti and I am here with my co-host, Mr. Michael Gasper, the Creole man. Welcome, Michael.
Thank you, Virgil. Merci un peu pour venir enfin brancher puis nous à sur station télévision MTN pour ça qui est passé ici en Caille Constitution. Ça c'est comme normal, c'est pas un débat exactement, mais Caille Constitution pour un meeting pour discuter plusieurs différents sujets avec changer tout le monde toujours a dit la débranche en parlement. Ça c'est Caille Constitution côté c'est maintenant électé avec l'autre branche là c'est ça nous a créé Sénat là qui à l'autre niveau qui est plus haut. Le créé anglais de upper house et mais aujourd'hui de lower house ça c'est un niveau ça la joindre pour discuter plusieurs différentes motions. Veux-tu peut-être au cas ça dire nous ces motions et après nous discuter en créole.
Yes, Michael, according to the order paper, it looks like a packed agenda today for the Parliament, and there are 10 motions down for discussion or debate, and there are 12 bills. Just to quickly go through some of the motions today, the Minister of Finance, that is the Prime Minister, he will be seeking authorization to borrow monies for several different projects. Motion 1 really authorizes the Prime Minister to raise money by issuing of bonds in the amounts of 49.5 million, that's EC dollars. And the purpose for this is really to finance the 2026-2027 budget cycle. There's a second motion where the Minister of Finance is seeking the authorization of Parliament to borrow approximately $37 million, and that is to finance the Caribbean Resilient Renewable Energy Infrastructure. And of course, there are several components to this particular motion, and as the debate ensues, we will be going through the details of this particular motion. Motion 3 also sees the Prime Minister seeking authorization to borrow a sum of $5,567,000 approximately, and that is for capital expenditure for the Caribbean Digital Transformation Project, according to the order paper. Motion 4 sees also the Prime Minister seeking to borrow some $22,900,000 to finance the Caribbean Efficient and Green Energy Buildings Project. Motion 5 also authorizes the Minister of Finance to borrow approximately $25 million from the International Development Association, and the purpose of this is to finance the St. Lucian Urban Resilient Flood Investment Project. Motion 6 authorizes the Minister of Finance to borrow approximately $833,500 loan from the Caribbean Development Bank, and that is for technical assistance in terms of preparation, consultancy services, and a feasibility study, including detailed designs, and that is to upgrade the Sir Julian R. Hunt Highway and selected secondary roads. And the purpose of this is to improve safety, inclusion, resilience, and efficiency. Motion 7 authorizes the Minister of Finance to guarantee an amount of $1,616,400, and that is to guarantee a loan on behalf of the St. Lucia Air and Seaports Authority, and that is for technical assistance dealing with the for consultancy services. Part of this will include the development of a new cargo port facility at Cul-de-sac, and it also part of this financing will do with the digitalization of certain initiatives at the port. Michael?
Oui, ça c'est 10 différentes notions. Quand nous avons parlé, nous avons expliqué quand tu es après ça, nous allons aller directement au speaker qui consiste pour commencer la session après ça.
Servant here gathered together in thy name, do most humbly beseech thee to send down thy heavenly wisdom from above, to direct and guide us in all our consultations. And grant that we, having thy fear always before our eyes, and laying aside all private interests, prejudice, and partial affections, the result of all our counsel may be to thy glory, of thy blessed name, the maintenance of true religion, and justice, the safety, honor, and happiness of the King, public will, peace, and tranquility of St. Lucia, and the uniting and knitting together of the hearts of all persons and estates within the same, in true Christian love and charity, one towards another, through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen. The grace of our Lord Jesus Christ, and the love of God, and the fellowship of the Holy Spirit be with us all, and forevermore. Amen. In the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Amen.
Good morning, members, and I want to welcome the students from the Birmingham University in the United Kingdom, one of whom, or two of whom actually, reside now in the Office of the Attorney General. So, welcome to you. I also, on behalf of the Parliament, wish to extend thanks to the Office of the Prime Minister. I'm sure every member would have noticed there are new microphones on the desk, the stem of which is sufficiently long to go over the lectern and not lift the microphone. Thank you very much, Mr. Prime Minister. I've been advised that the members for Labrie, Dennery South, Ancillary Canaries, and Viewfort South are unable to be with us today, as they are out of state on official business. And I beg to announce that His Excellency the Governor General has been pleased to assent the following bill, Appropriation 2025-2026. I would also like to thank members who attended the post-election seminar last month, which the presenters from the House of Commons and several participants considered a huge success. And members, tomorrow is Public Service Day, and I take this opportunity to thank all public servants for their continued service and commitment, and ask that they recommit to further service. Last week, we laid to rest former Governor General, Senate President, and Member of Parliament, Sir Emmanuel Neville Snack. In all three roles, Parliament was the common thread. For even as Governor General, under Section 23 of the Constitution, in much the same way the Attorney General is the titular head of the Bar Association, so is the Governor General the titular head of Parliament. On behalf of Parliament, we extend our sincerest condolences to the Snack family. Papers to be laid. Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I beg
to lay the following papers standing in my name. Statutory instrument number 81 of 2026, St. Lucia Parliament Proclamation Proroguing Parliament. Statutory instrument number 82 of 2026, St. Lucia Parliament Appointment of Session of Parliament. Statutory instrument number 84 of 2026, Stamp Duty Amendment of Schedules. Statutory instrument number 85 of 2026, Fiscal Incentives DG Farm Incorporated Order. Statutory instrument number 87 of 2026, Excise Tax Amendment of Schedule 1 number 6 Order. Statutory instrument number 88 of 2026, Alien Land Holding Licenses Exemption Anderson Sean Jolie Order. Statutory instrument number 89 of 2026, Alien Land Holding Licensing Exemption Eva Astrid Beckers and Avril Avian Pantin Order. Statutory instrument number 90 of 2026, Alien Land Holding Licensing Exemption Charmin Adresta Persistent Prosper Order. Statutory instrument number 91 of 2026, Alien Land Holding License Exemption Michael Cedric Saunders Order. Statutory instrument number 82 of 26, Alien Land Holding Licensing Exemption Karen Cecilia Saunders and Patrick Anthony Saunders Order. Statutory instrument number 93 of 2026, Public Finance Management Contingency Fund Regulations. Statutory instrument number 94 of 2026, Legal Professional Eligibility Devon Asher Morris Order. Statutory instrument number 96 of 2026, Public Debt Management Regulations. Statutory number 98 of 2026, Excise Tax Amendment of Schedule 1 number 7 Order. Statutory number 9 of 2026, Criminal Records Rehabilitation of Offenders Regulations. Statutory number 100 of 2026, Criminal Records Rehabilitation of Offenders Amendment of Schedules 1 and 2 Order. Statutory number 101 of 2026, Stamp Duty Amendment of Schedule number 2 Regulations. Statutory number 102 of 2026, Alien Land Holding Licensing Exemption Roger Michael Kalu Order. Statutory number 105 of 2026, Alien Land Holding Licensing Exemption Sharon Ann Marie Fagan Order. Statutory instrument number 109 of 2026, Excise Tax Amendment of Schedule 1 number 8 Order. Statutory instrument number 111 of 2026, Alien Land Holding Licensing Exemption Lennox Joseph Kush, Simon Yonet Kush, and Salah Tulani Kush Order. Statutory instrument number 112 of 2026, Income Tax Exemption Order. Statutory instrument number 113 of 2026, Income Tax Exemption number 2 Order. Statutory instrument number 114 of 2026, Special Development Areas Amendment of Schedule 1 Order.
Deputy Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to lay the following papers standing in my name. Statutory instrument number 86 of 2026, Price Control Amendment number 6 Order. Statutory instrument number 95 of 2026, Tourism Development, Pablo Taxi and Tours Order. Statutory instrument number 97 of 2026, Price Control Amendment number 7 Order. Statutory instrument number 103 of 2026, Micro and Small Scale Business Enterprises, Declaration of a Small Scale Business Enterprise, Big Chef Big House Limited Order. Statutory instrument number 104 of 2026, Micro and Small Business Enterprises, Declaration of a Small Scale Business Enterprise, Island Renewables Limited Order. Statutory instrument number 106 of 2026, Tourism Development, Courtesy Taxi Cooperative Society Limited Order. Statutory instrument number 107 of 2026, Tourism Development, McPhee Taxi and Transportation Services Order. Statutory instrument number 108 of 2026, Price Control Amendment number 8 Order. Export St. Lucia Annual Report 2024-2025.
Senior Minister and Minister for the Public Service, Transport, Information and Utilities Regulation.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to lay the following papers standing in my name. Statutory Instrument Number 83 of 2026, Motor Vehicles and Road Traffic, Designation of Inspections Order. Statutory Instrument Number 110 of 2026, Motor Vehicles and Road Traffic, Designation of Inspectors. Number 2, order.
Motions, Minister for Finance.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to lay the following motion standing in my name. Whereas it is provided under Section 23(1) of the Public Debt Management Act, Cap 15.45, the Act, that the Minister of Finance is the sole borrowing agent for the government and may, in order to meet the fiscal requirements of government, borrow by ways of loans and government securities. And whereas it is further provided under Section 32(1) of the Act that the Minister of Finance may, by resolution of Parliament, raise money by the issue of treasury bonds and treasury notes in and outside St. Lucia to meet the fiscal requirements for the government borrowing under Section 23 of the Act. And whereas the Minister of Finance considers it necessary to raise money by the issue of treasury bonds as follows: the issuance of EC 49.5 million for financing the 2026-27 budget cycle at interest rates of up to a maximum of 7%, the refinancing of EC 856 million in existing treasury bonds and treasury bills for the issuance of treasury bonds on the regional government securities market and by private placements at interest rates up to a maximum of 7%. Be it resolved that Parliament authorizes the Minister of Finance to raise money by the issue of treasury bonds as follows: the issuance of EC 49.5 million for financing the 2026-2027 budget cycle at interest rates up to a maximum of 7%. And B, the refinancing of EC 856 million in existing treasury bonds and treasury bills for the issuance of treasury bonds on the regional government securities market and by private placements at interest rates of up to a maximum of 7%. Mr. Speaker, this resolution or motion, Mr. Speaker, is to ask the Parliament of St. Lucia to allow the government to issue or to seek the issuance of 49.5 million through the issuance of new bonds and notes on the regional government securities market or through private placements at a maximum rate of 7%. And note, Mr. Speaker, from the onset, that is the new money that we are seeking, $49.5 million. And if you recall, Mr. Speaker, in my budget statement on the treasury bills and bonds, when I was speaking about the source of funds, I stated that we would have borrowed $49.5 million from treasury bills. And this is what we are doing here this morning, Mr. Speaker. The other part of the resolution, $856 million, Mr. Speaker, and I want to make it clear, it's not new money. We're not seeking to borrow $856 million of new money. These treasury bills and these bonds already exist in the system. They've been refinanced, but they already are in the system. It is not new money that we are borrowing. I want to make it clear. That $856 million is not new money that we are borrowing, Mr. Speaker. That we have to refinance $856 million, but it's not new money. And Mr. Speaker, the rate at which the confidence in St. Lucia and the confidence in the St. Lucian economy, Mr. Speaker, shows that most of these bonds are repurposed. Like people, instead of taking the money out, Mr. Speaker, that money, they leave it in. Thank you. So, yes, as I was saying, because of the confidence in the economy, Mr. Speaker, when these bonds or these treasury bills are due, they remain in the system. The people who buy them because of the confidence they have in the system, they keep that money with the government of St. Lucia. They do not withdraw their money. And this is extremely important, Mr. Speaker, that when we have a placement on the market, either the RSM or private placement, people withdraw their interest. Sometimes, but most of the time, the principal remains, Mr. Speaker. And that is worthy of note, Mr. Speaker, because of the confidence that there's in the market, and the confidence in St. Lucia, Mr. Speaker. The confidence that when these bonds mature, Mr. Speaker, they are normally kept in the system, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, just to make it clear, it's just $49 million, $49.5 million of new money, and not $856 million. $856 million already exists in the system. It's in the system, Mr. Speaker. So what we are asking for is $49.5 million of new treasury bonds, and so to help finance the budget as outlined in my budget statement. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable members, the question is that Parliament authorizes the Minister for Finance to raise money by the issue of treasury bonds as follows. A, the issuance of EC 49.5 million for financing the 2026-2027 budget cycle at interest rates up to a maximum of 7%. And B, the refinancing of EC 856 million in existing treasury bonds and treasury bills through the issuance of treasury bonds on the regional government securities market and by private placement at interest rates up to a maximum of 7%. Leader of the Opposition.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, it's always good to reflect. And for St. Lucians to have an appreciation of what a very subtle difference can make. And the subtle difference that I'm making reference to this morning, Mr. Speaker, is a difference from sitting on that side of the House and sitting on this side of the House. And I recall, leading up to one of the darkest hours in our country, which was, in my humble opinion, Mr. Speaker, COVID. And when we were here in this same House, and I had the honor of sitting as the Prime Minister and the Minister of Finance, and was making the exact same presentation that the current Minister of Finance is making. And I recall very clearly what the then opposition was saying about this same motion. Same one. I'm just so sorry that my good friend, the representative from Labrie, is not here. Because I remember he was the one who led the charge and was trying to convince every single person exactly what the Prime Minister, the member from Castries East, has attempted to reiterate to all of us in this bill. A simple fact. The refinancing of bonds, I'm only going to take his words. If I'm wrong, I'm happy to sit down, is not new debt. That the refinancing of bonds is not new debt. But the then opposition didn't have that same point of view, Mr. Speaker, in 2020 or in 2019. They went out and advocated, no, new debt, 800 million. New debt. You see, I lose already. That's the response to everything. Anytime that you're going to hold the members on the other side accountable for any of their statements in the past, they're very quick to remind us that they lose. But maybe part of losing was that people believed you much more than they wanted to believe me. Exactly. Okay? That's politics. Oh, see, I love it. That's not about the truth, you know. That's about politics. It's about propaganda. It's about mama-guying the people of this country. That's what it was. I'm mama-guy. Because, you know, here it is. That's why I had to stand up, you know. On normal circumstances, I would not respond because this is a basic thing of governance. You finish a budget, you have to come to the House and approve the amounts of new borrowing, 49 million or 54 million, and also indicate that there's going to be refinancing of which the member from Castries East reiterated not once, not twice, not 3 times, but multiple times, to say this is not new borrowing, because he knows well what he is saying. Because when he was on this side, it was convenient for him to try to convince the people of St. Lucia that this was new borrowing, and the government did not know what they're doing. Okay? My point is that the truth will always be the truth. It doesn't matter whether the truth is what you want it to believe, which, as I've said, the truth is what you want it to believe. But notwithstanding saying that, I followed up by saying, but the truth will always be the truth. The truth is not what you conveniently want to make it out to be. And today, so then it was convenient for this motion to be perceived and promoted as new borrowings. But I'm glad that time has gone by. And this is now been clarified, and we now hopefully, using the members on the opposite side, put that to rest. That this is not new borrowings. Okay? But I also want to say, Mr. Speaker, and again, while we have the attention of everybody on this issue, is that in 2020, during the period of COVID, we similarly had $850 million of bonds that were due. And no, not new money. Refinancing of the existing bonds. And the Prime Minister is correct. We have a history in this country in which the vast majority, in excess of 95% of those bonds, are turned over and not redeemed. Now, because of COVID and people were short cash, 25% of the bond holders and treasury bill holders during COVID redeemed their bonds or treasury bills. And the government had to find $200 million of cash. And this is a large part. The member from Castries North is here because he was leading the delegation in the discussions with the civil servants when we were attempting, Mr. Speaker, to get the civil servants to forego part of their salary in exchange for bonds at 4% or 4.5% tax-free, in order to create cash flow so that we could have afforded some of those things. We should not let that lesson go away, because we should always have a reserve of funds to be able to handle that kind of crisis. And I'm proud of the fact, Mr. Speaker, that notwithstanding that happened, that we still were able to make it through in paying salaries and paying our debts. The Prime Minister always brings up an issue, and again, I want to put everything on the table. Okay? Everything on the table. That he speaks about the payables that he inherited when he came in. And I was very open to this House, I was very open to the public, and I was very open to the solutions. If in fact your revenue dropped from $110 million a month to $55 million, and the monies that you were able to get, $300 million from CDB, the World Bank, and the IMF, could be used, but they could not be used to pay off debt, it means that we had to reconfigure what we used our tax money to pay, and to be able to use the World Bank, the CDB, and the IMF's funds to be able to pay for recurrent expenditures and to be able to continue some of our capital projects. I say that, Mr. Speaker, because it's very, very, very important. I want to say that the Prime Minister has said something, and I want to challenge him on that issue. He says all is well, and that solutions should not fear because there is a general confidence. And he's used the example of people turning over their bonds, the confidence that people have to be able to do that. What the Prime Minister is forgetting to highlight, because he mumbled it, but I want to make it very clear. The incentive to do so is the fact that the threshold, the maximum that we're going to have the interest rates at, is now moved to 7%. Now, it's an interesting phenomenon, because we've seen around the world that central banks around the world, Mr. Speaker, are actually lowering their interest rates. We also know that the ECCB has not changed their rates that they are lending the banks money at. Hasn't changed. So when we see that the interest threshold is going up, is because somebody must be sensing that there's some reluctance on the buyer's part. And paying a higher interest rate, Mr. Speaker, is a way to overcome persons' fears or concerns. And while I don't believe that 7%, Mr. Speaker, is an alarming number as yet, but it is a trend that we should keep our eyes on, because the rest of the world, interest rates are falling, and all of a sudden it ceases. I took the liberty of going on the bond market just to see what our bonds are being sold at. And the fact is, a 5 or 6 year bond is now, Mr. Speaker, at 6.5%. In fact, now the threshold has been increased to 7%. Clearly, the financial advisors, because I was sitting in the seat, I know how the system works, that before we go out, we have to figure out what that threshold is and what is the market telling us. So it is a bit worrisome, and I would certainly like the member, Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister, Minister of Finance, to speak to it, because we have several borrowing bills today, and would be ample opportunity, if not in his rebuttal, but to deal with the issue as to why is the interest rates going up. Is it competition from the other OECS countries? What's causing the interest rates to go up? Because if the economy is doing as well as he says it is, which I beg to differ, because there are a lot of indications to say the economy is not doing well. And as I've said, the habit that some persons have of waiting to feel before they can say they know is not one that I can recommend. And if I can use an example, Mr. Speaker, high blood pressure. You can go and get your blood pressure and see that it's high. You can be suffering from headaches, you have fatigue. All the indications is that you have high blood pressure and you are now in a vulnerable state of getting a stroke. If persons ignore all of those signals and don't take the doctor's advice, change your eating habits, change your drinking habits, and in some cases, to take your blood pressure pills. That's the prescription. Based on what? Indicators that are telling you that you're going in the wrong trend. We have the same issue, the same situation in economy. When debt to GDP is rising, when expenditures are rising higher than revenue, when we're not seeing productivity in the state, these are very clear indications that something is wrong and it needs to be addressed. So I beg to differ with the Prime Minister. I think that there are several signals out there that are sending off warning signs that the country is heading in the wrong direction, and we have concerns. And today, increasing the threshold to 7% on lending is further confirmation that I am not the only one who is seeing that there's something wrong, Mr. Speaker, but others are. And I'm hoping that the Prime Minister will address some of these issues, because they are clearly of concern from the opposition, but more importantly, from the business community, Mr. Speaker. I thank you.
Minister for Finance.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, two things. I will not go into litigating history, Mr. Speaker. The history is clear. And the only thing of us politicians is the people always judge us. And the people judge us in one day, and they judge us based on our performance. And they did judge us on the 1st of December. So I will not litigate history. I just want to clear a few things, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the rollover risk, Mr. Speaker, is extremely low. And last year, 25-26, there was 100% rollover of maturing bonds. 100%. If that's not confidence, I don't know what else is confidence. 100% rollover. Not one person said that there were any issues, they wanted the money back. 100% rollover. And to make it even, the evidence is even clearer, Mr. Speaker. The bond issuances were oversubscribed by $106.8 million. So apart from the 100% rollover, there was an oversubscription of $106.8 million. That means investors with $106 million wanted to buy bonds, but we did not have bonds to sell for them. $106 million. Thirdly, Mr. Speaker, in terms of interest rates, Mr. Speaker, it's a maximum of 7%. It's not at 7%. It's a maximum of 7%. That means it can fluctuate from 3% to 7%. It's a maximum, Mr. Speaker. And that is what we must note. The reason why, Mr. Speaker, is because of the uncertainty in the world market. We know, and I guess at some point they may want to blame St. Lucia for it. We know about the conflicts in the world. We know what's happening with oil prices. We know what's happening with the conflict between the U.S. and in Iran, etc. We know about the conflicts. We know what's happening in the geopolitical scene, Mr. Speaker. But so we have ensured that instead of with the maximum of 7%, not at 7%, but it's a maximum at 7%, Mr. Speaker. Further, Mr. Speaker, the leader of the opposition speaks about expenditure, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, one's expenditure is to improve the quality of life of the people of St. Lucia. The government will subscribe to it and will spend to improve the quality of life of the people of St. Lucia. We make absolutely no bones about it. Once the quality of life of the people of St. Lucia, once the people get their 5 CXC subjects paid, once the under-resourced and the underserved will get a better quality of life, we will spend the money on them, but spend the money with a level of prudence and responsibility. What must not happen, Mr. Speaker, is that the opposition must not go all over the place sullying the good name of St. Lucia with falsities and with lies. They must not seek to damage the good name of the country with things that are obviously not true and say it overseas so that people can lose confidence. That's what's important. Not spending a few cents, or not spending a few dollars on the people of the country. Not when we pay CXC subjects, not when we give people the high blood pressure and the diabetic medicine free, not when we deal with early childhood education, not when we deal with special education, not when we deal with the PUT program as we did this morning, not when we repair schools, not when we fix the potholes and everyone can see a drastic improvement in the road network in the country, not when we do that, Mr. Speaker, not when we spend money on farmers to get them fertilizers, etc. Not when we do that. When you go out and you study the name of St. Lucia, you deliberately spread falsehoods. You try to damage the the CIP program just because you will not benefit, no matter how many times you lose in the court. That is what's dangerous. That's what's dangerous. So we make no bones about it. We will continue to put the people first, and we will continue to borrow once the people of the country will benefit. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable members, the question is that Parliament authorizes the Minister for Finance to raise money by the issue of Treasury bonds as follows. A. The issuance of EC 49.5 million for financing the 2026-2027 budget cycle at interest rates up to a maximum of 7%, and B. The refinancing of EC $856 million in existing Treasury bonds and Treasury bills through the issuance of Treasury bonds on the regional government securities market and by private placement at interest rates up to a maximum of 7%. I now put the question. As many as of that opinion say aye. As many as of a contrary opinion say no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it. Minister for Finance.
Mr. Speaker, I beg leave of the Honourable House of Assembly to move that motions 2, 3, 4, and 5, which relate to renewable energy and digital transformation, be consolidated and presented together for consideration of the House.
Honourable members, the question is that motions 2, 3, 4, and 5 on the order paper, which relate to renewable energy and digital transformation, be consolidated by the Minister for Finance in presentation to the House. I now put the question. As many as of that opinion say aye. As many as of a contrary opinion say no. No. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it. Leave is granted. Please proceed, Finance Minister.
Whereas it is provided under Section 63(1) of the Public Finance Management Act, Cap 15.01, the Act, that the Minister of Finance may, by affirmative resolution of Parliament, borrow from a bank or other financial institution for the capital or current expenditure of government. And whereas it is further provided under Section 64 of the Act that money borrowed by the government must be paid into and form part of the consolidated fund, and whereas the Minister of Finance considers it necessary to borrow an amount of $37,750,000, the loan from the International Development Association, the association, to finance the Caribbean Resilient Renewable Energy Infrastructure Investment Facility project. And whereas the loan comprises a credit of $29,100,000 from the association credits, a loan of $6,660,000 from the association, acting as the implementing entity of the Clean Technology Fund, the fund loan, financing of $1,990,000 from the association, acting as the administrator of the Canadian Clean Energy and Forest Climate Facility Single Donor Trust Fund, the trust fund. And whereas in the case of the association credits, the maximum commitment charge is 1/2 of 1% per annum on the withdrawn financing balance. The service charge is the sum of 3/4 of 1% per annum, plus the basis adjustment to the service charge on the withdrawn credit balance. The loan is repayable in 40 years, commencing from the date of approval of the association credit by the board of the association, inclusive of a grace period of 10 years. The loan is repayable in semi-annual installments on the first day of March, the first day of September of each year after the grace period. And whereas, in the case of the fund loan, The management fee is 0.45%. The service charge is 1/4 of 1% per annum on the withdrawn balance. The loan is repayable in 40 years, commencing from the date of approval of the loan by the board for the association, inclusive of a grace period of 10 years. The loan is repayable in semi-annual installments on the first day of March and the first day of September of each year after the grace period. And whereas, in the case of the trust fund financing, the loan is repayable in 20 years, commencing from the date of approval of the trust fund financing by the board of the association, inclusive of a grace period of 5 years. The loan is repayable in semi-annual installments on the first day of March and the first day of September of each year after the grace period. Be it resolved that Parliament authorizes the Minister for Finance to borrow an amount of US $37,750,000 from the International Development Association to finance the Caribbean Resilient Renewable Energy Infrastructure Investment Facility. Be it further resolved that the loan comprises a credit of US $29,100,000 from the association credits, a loan of US $6,660,000 from the association, acting as the implementing agency of the Clean Technology Fund, the fund loan. Financing of US $1,990,000 from the association, acting as the administrator of the Canadian Clean Energy and Forest Climate Facility Single Donor Trust Fund, the Trust Fund. Be it further resolved that in the case of the association credits, the maximum commitment charge is 1/2 of 1% per annum on the withdrawn financing balance. The service charge is the sum of 3/4 of 1% per annum plus the basis adjustment to the service charge on the withdrawn credit balance. The loan is repayable in 40 years, commencing from the date of approval of the association credit by the board of the association, inclusive of a grace period of 10 years. The loan is repayable in semi-annual installments on the first day of March and the first day of September of each year after the grace period. In the case of the fund loan, the management fee is 0.45%. The service charge is 1/4 of 1% per annum on the withdrawn credit balance. The loan is repayable in 40 years, commencing from the date of approval of the fund loan by the board of the association, inclusive of a grace period of 10 years. The loan is repayable in semi-annual installments on the first day of March and the first day of September of each year after the grace period. In the case of the trust fund financing, the loan is repayable in 20 years, commencing from the date of approval of the trust fund financing, including of a grace period of 5 years. The loan is repayable in semi-annual installments on the first day of March and the first day of September of each year after the grace period. Motion number 2. Whereas it's provided under Section 363(1)(a) of the Public Finance Management Act, Cap 15.0 on the Act, that the Minister of Finance may, by affirmative resolution of Parliament, borrow from a bank or other financial institution for the capital or current expenditure of government. And whereas it is further provided under Section 64 of the Act that money borrowed by the government must be paid into and form part of the consolidated fund. And whereas Parliament, by the Finance Administration Act, the resolution of Parliament, to borrow for capital expenditure, Caribbean Digital Transformation Project, Statutory Instrument number 122 of 2020, authorized by the Minister of Finance to borrow the sum of US $20 million by way of credit from the International Development Association for capital expenditure for the Caribbean Digital Transformation Project, with the maximum commitment charge rate payable on the withdrawn financing balance is 1% per annum, the service charge payable on the withdrawn credit balance that is equal to the greater of the sum of 3/4 of 1% per annum plus the basis adjustment to the service charge and 3/4 of 1% per annum. The loan is repaid in 40 years, commencing from the date of the first disbursement of the loan, inclusive of a 10-year grace period. The principal amount of the loan to be repaid on each 15th day of April and 15th day of October at a rate of 1%, commencing on 15th day of October 2030 to the 15th day of April 2040. 2% of the loan amount commencing on the 15th day of October 2040 to the 15th day of October 2026. And whereas 2060, and whereas the Minister of Finance considered it necessary to borrow an additional sum of US $5,567,044 by way of credit from the National Development Association for capital expenditure for the Caribbean Digital Transformation Project. And whereas the maximum commitment charge rate payable on the withdrawn financial balance is 0.5% per annum. And whereas the service charge is payable on the withdrawn credit balance that is equal to the greater of the sum of 3/4 of 1% per annum plus the basis adjustment to the service charge and 3/4 of 1% per annum. And whereas the loan is repayable in 40 years, commencing on the date of disbursement of the loan, inclusive of a 10-year grace period. And whereas the principal amount of the loan is repayable on each 15th day of April and 15th day of October at a rate of 1% of the loan, commencing on the 15th day of April 2035 to the 15th day of April 2045, and 2% of the loan commencing on the 15th day of October 2045 and the 15th day of April 2065. Be it resolved that Parliament authorizes the Minister of Finance to borrow an additional sum of US $5,567,044 from the National Development Association for capital expenditure for the Caribbean Digital Transformation Project. The maximum commitment charge rate payable on the withdrawn financial balance is 0.5% per annum. The service charge payable on the withdrawn credit balance that is equal to the greater of the sum of 3/4 of 1% per annum plus the base adjustment to the service charge and 3/4 of 1% per annum. The loan is repayable in 40 years, commencing from the date of disbursement of the loan, inclusive of a 10-year grace period. The principal amount of the loan is repayable on each 15th of April and 15th of October at a rate of 1% of the loan amount, commencing on the 15th of April 2035 to the 15th of April 2045. 2% of the loan commencing on the 15th of October 2045 to the 15th of April 2065. Motion number 3. Whereas it is provided under Section 63(1)(a) of the Finance Management Act, Cap 15.01 the Act, that the Minister for Finance may, by an affirmative resolution of Parliament, borrow from a bank or other financial institution for the capital or current expenditure of government. And whereas it is further provided under Section 64 of the Act that money borrowed by the government must be paid into and form part of the consolidated fund. And whereas the Minister of Finance considers it necessary to borrow an amount equivalent of 22,900,000 special drawing rights, the loan, from the National Development Association to finance the Caribbean Efficient and Green Energy Building Project. And whereas the service charge is 3/4 of 1% per annum on the withdrawn credit balance, and whereas the loan is repayable in 40 years, commencing from the date of disbursement of the loan, inclusive of a grace period of 10 years, and whereas the principal amount of the loan is repayable on each the first day of March and the first day of September each year on the following terms: 1% of the loan amount commencing on the first day of March 2045, 2 and including the first day of September 2044. 2% of the loan amount commencing on the first day of March 2045 and including the first day of September 2064. Be it resolved that the Minister of Finance consider it necessary to borrow an amount equivalent to $22,900,000 special joint rights, the loan, from the National Development Association to finance a Caribbean efficient green energy building project. Be it further resolved that the service charge is 3/4 of 1% per annum on the withdrawn credit balance. The loan is repayable in 40 years, commencing on the date of disbursement of the loan, inclusive of a grace period of 10 years. The principal amount of the loan is repayable on each first day of March and first day of September each year on the following terms: 1% of the loan amount commencing on the first day of March 2045 and including the first of September 2044, 2% of the loan commencing on the first day of March 2045 and including the first day of September 2064. Motion number 4. Whereas it is provided under Section 63(1)(a) of the Public Finance Management Act, the Act, that the Minister of Finance may, by affirmative resolution of Parliament, borrow from a bank or other financial institution for the capital or interest expenditure of government. And whereas it is further provided under Section 64 of the Act that money borrowed by the government must be paid into and form part of the consolidated fund. And whereas the Minister of Finance considered it necessary to borrow an amount of special joint rights, $18,500,000, the loan equivalent to approximately $25 million from the National Development Association to finance the St. Lucia Urban Resilient Flood Investment Project. And whereas the service charge is 3/4 of 1% per annum on the withdrawn balance, on the withdrawn credit balance, and whereas the maximum commitment charge rate payable on the withdrawn financing balance is 1/2 of 1% per annum, and whereas the maximum commitment charge rate payable on the unwithdrawn financial balance is 1/2 of 1% per annum, and whereas the principal amount of the loan is repayable on each first day of March and the first day of September, commencing after the end of the 10-year grace period, at a rate of 1% of the loan, commencing on the first day of March 2046 to the first day of September 2045. 2% of the loan, commencing on the first day of March 2046 to the first day of September 2065. Be it resolved that Parliament authorizes the Minister of Finance to borrow an amount of special joint rights, $18,500,000, the loan, equivalent to approximately $25 million from the International Development Association to finance the St. Lucia Urban Resilient Flood Investment Project. Be it further resolved that the service charge is 3/4 of 1% per annum on the withdrawn credit balance. The maximum commitment charge payable on the withdrawn financing balance is 1/2 of 1% per annum. The principal amount of the loan is repayable on each of the first day of March and first day of September, commencing after the end of the 10-year grace period at a rate of 1% of the loan amount commencing on the first day of March 2046 to the first day of September 2045, 2% of the loan amount commencing on the first day of March 2046 to the first day of September 2065. Mr. Speaker, you will note that all these resolutions have one common thread. And I just want to allay the fears of the Minister of the Leader of the Opposition when he made a point of the interest rates. And he will note that the interest rates in all these motions, all these borrowing motions, is nothing near 7%. Remember, he made a correlation between the interest rate, the maximum interest rate that we put on the bonds. He made that correlation. I want to make it clear, and it's clear for everyone to see, that in all these borrowing motions, not one of these motions, the interest rate is anything near 7%. In fact, nothing near 5% or even 4%. Just to make it clear, to allay the fears of people who might be tempted to want to listen. Mr. Speaker, These motions, these borrowing motions, again, come from the promise of the government as enunciated in the budget, Mr. Speaker. The budget of 2026-2027, consolidating our gains and prospering in uncertain times. And I turn, Mr. Speaker, to page 32 of the budget under the caption Renewable Energy, Mr. Speaker. And you will see, Mr. Speaker, that all these borrowing motions are mentioned in that budget address, keeping our promise to the people of St. Lucia, Mr. Speaker. On page 32, Caribbean Efficient and Green Energy Building Project, Caribbean Resilient Renewable Energy Infrastructure. These projects were mentioned in our thrust towards renewable energy, Mr. Speaker, and that will be further enforced when the Minister for Energy will deliver on the electricity supply bill. It will be further enforced, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, let me give you a brief detail on what these motions are about. I will start, Mr. Speaker, with the Caribbean Resilient Renewable Energy Infrastructure motion. Mr. Speaker, the purpose of that loan, Mr. Speaker, will enable St. Lucia's participation in the Caribbean Resilient Renewable Energy Infrastructure Investment Facility Project, which comprises the islands of St. Vincent, Grenada, and St. Lucia, Mr. Speaker, and I think St. Kitts at some later point. The primary goal of this project is to increase the share of renewable energy in the electricity mix, enhance energy infrastructure resilience across St. Lucia and other participating Caribbean countries. The project will aid St. Lucia in building a resilient, sustainable, and modern energy system while reducing dependence on imported fossil fuels and improving economic and environmental resilience. The project background. Mr. Speaker, the project arises from St. Lucia's urgent need to modernize its energy infrastructure, reduce fossil fuel dependence, and increase climate resilience, while also enhancing institutional and regulatory capacity. It is part of a broader regional strategy to tackle shared energy and environmental challenges in a coordinated, scalable, and sustainable way. The project details. Mr. Speaker, the project has 4 components. Under component 1, the project will establish the regional coordination entity responsible for coordinating the aggregation of renewable energy projects to achieve economies of scale and reduce the cost of individual projects. Simply said, Mr. Speaker, it will create economies of scale by combining the projects for the islands, for the 4 islands. It will provide technical support to national entities of the 3 participating countries, as well as the Eastern Caribbean Partial Credit Guarantee Corporation. Component 2. Mr. Speaker, it will provide risk mitigation to reduce financial risks and encourage private sector investment in renewable energy. This component will also address physical risks by supporting renewable energy projects that have resilient design, with a resilient design, and the creation of a risk mitigation fund under Resilient Renewable Energy Infrastructure Investment Facility Project to offer partial credit guarantees. Component 3 focuses on modernizing electricity grids to support the integration of renewable energy sources and enhance the reliability and resilience of energy infrastructure. Component number 4 will redeploy some of the project resources to respond to any emergencies. The resources will be made available to finance emergency response activities and to address crisis and emergency needs. The financing details, Mr. Speaker, I've already read, I've already said in the motion. and is funded from the IDA, International Development Association, a loan from the Clean Technology Fund, the CTF, a loan from the Canadian Clean Energy and Forest Climate Facility Single Donor Trust Fund, and a grant from the Gender Equality in the Energy Sector of Small and Developing States. Mr. Speaker, it's a joint group of financiers that are supporting the Islands in this initiative, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, it's concessional with long repayment periods and low service charges. That is extremely important, Mr. Speaker. Long repayment periods and low service charges. The IDA will act as the implementing entity for the CTF loan and the administrator for the CCEFCF funds, Mr. Speaker. Again, making the point that the loans, the interest loans on the interest rate on these loans are nothing near what the leader of the opposition tried to imply a few minutes ago, trying to instill the normal fear. Nothing near that, Mr. Speaker. 40 years, the first one, the IDA loan is for 40 years, a grace period of 10 years. Listen to the interest rates that he speaks about. A grace period of 10 years, interest only. Service charge, 0.75% per annum. And if you can, we can do the maths. Add it up and you'll see what the total cost of the borrowing is. Commitment charge, 0.5% per annum on the unwithdrawn financing balance. Repayment semi-annually, March the 1st and September 1st. On the clean technology loan of $6.6 million US, 40 years. Grace period, 10 years. Service charge, 0.75% per annum on the unwithdrawn credit balance payable semi-annually. Management fee, 0.45%. Repayment semi-annually, March the 1st and September the 1st. On the Canadian Clean Energy and Forest Climate Facility Single Donor Trust Fund loan of US $1.99 million, 20 years. Grace period, 5 years. Repayment semi-annually on March the 1st and September 1st. There's a grant component in that facility of US $200,000 from the Gender Equality in the Energy Sector of Small Island Developing States, and it carries no repayment obligation. It's a grant from the gender, from that organization, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, the project and the entire project aims at supporting climate resilience, energy security, economic development, and social inclusion across St. Lucia and other participating countries. The project's direct beneficiaries include electricity consumers, citizens and national utilities of participating countries who will gain access to affordable, reliable, and clean energy. Governments who will benefit from reduced fossil fuel import costs, alleviating some fiscal pressure and improving energy security and resilience. The private sector and labor force who engage in the supply, construction, and operation of renewable energy infrastructure will gain employment opportunities and benefit from technology transfer and long-term risk mitigation. And the financial institutions, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, you see, this facility or these loans, including the grant which we are seeking, will, as I said, continue the government's thrust for renewable energy, Mr. Speaker, and will continue in lessening our dependence on fossil fuels, Mr. Speaker, and at an interest rate which is manageable with a 40-year period. The other resolution, Mr. Speaker, is for the Caribbean Digital Transformation Project. And Mr. Speaker, the purpose of that loan, the loan is for to provide additional financing to expand and strengthen the Caribbean Digital Transformation Project. The financing will enable the project to scale up St. Lucia's digital transformation efforts, improve access to digital services, strengthen the digital economy, and enhance government efficiency and service delivery. Mr. Speaker, on July 20th, 2020, the Government of St. Lucia entered into a financing agreement with the International Development Association, IDA, under which the International Development Association provided a credit of $20 million to the Caribbean Digital Transformation Project. Mr. Speaker, the government has requested additional financing from the IDA to expand the scope of the project. The proposed scale-up will focus on activities such as upgrading the digital infrastructure to improve online public service, enhancing the broadband connectivity for schools, health facilities, and other public institutions, providing advanced digital skill training program for the workforce, supporting small and medium enterprises in adopting digital tools and systems, and strengthening innovation hubs and entrepreneurship programs. The additional financing for the project, Mr. Speaker, will build on the initial 2020 agreement, providing extra funds to deepen and broaden the impact of St. Lucia's ongoing digital transformation efforts. The project details, Mr. Speaker. The component, Mr. Speaker, the digital, part one is the digital enabling environment. This component, Mr. Speaker, focuses on strengthening the legal, regulatory, and institutional framework needed for a competitive and secure digital economy across the Caribbean. Activities include modernizing telecommunication regulations, improving sector governance, enhancing quality of service, monitoring and strengthening disaster resilience of communication networks, and establishing national cybersecurity agencies and supporting regional coordination. Part 2, digital government infrastructure platforms and services. Mr. Speaker, this component aims to modernize public sector operations and expand digital service delivery to citizens and businesses. Key activities will include developing digital transformation strategies, updating legislation for e-transactions, digital IDs and signatures, upgrading infrastructure such as broadband connectivity, data centers and government cloud systems, and digitizing priority government services such as civil registries, tax systems, customs clearance, tourism and immigration processes, health information systems, social cash transfers, and creating a unified government web and mobile portal to give citizens centralized access to public services. Digital skills and technology adoption, that's part 3 of the project. This component, Mr. Speaker, focuses on building the capacity of the workforce, businesses and vulnerable groups with the skills and tools needed for the digital economy. Workforce initiatives include conducting digital skills assessments and delivering advanced training programs, providing job coaching and stipends to support participation in training. Business-focused activities will promote digital technology adoption through training, advisory services, and matching grants, promoting electronic payments, and reducing reliance on cash. Provide digital devices and training for students, teachers, and vulnerable populations to improve access to the digital economy. Project implementation support. Mr. Speaker, this component ensures the effective management and coordination of the project. The PIU will be provided with resources. The PIU will be provided with resources to effectively manage, coordinate, and oversee all activities under the section. And the support will include administrative, technical, etc., Mr. Speaker. And again, the financing details: 40 years, a 10-year grace period, 5% commitment charge, 0.7.5 per annum on the withdrawn credit balance, repayment 1% of principal payable April 15 to and October 15, that's from 2045 to 2045, and 2% of principal payable April 15 and from October 15 and October 25. Mr. Speaker, a total interest of 3% payable in 2 tranches and a commitment fee and service charge of 0.8%, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this project will strengthen the digital enablement environment by improving laws, regulations, and institutions that support digital development, enhance public sector digital services, build digital skills through training and capacity building programs, and support technology adoption in key economic sectors to improve productivity and innovation. And, Mr. Speaker, I know there are concerns in certain sections, in certain sectors, that a part of the population will be left behind in digital transformation, Mr. Speaker. But I want to assure that this government will always make it possible that people who do not have access or who may be too old to acquire that access will always be able to procure the services of government. I want to make it abundantly clear, Mr. Speaker, that the services of government will always be accessible to everyone, even if they may not have the literacy, digital literacy that is needed in a modern world. And Mr. Speaker, we had the discussion of young people on social media, etc. And I was very surprised when the education minister was criticized because he made a point that the government had not yet developed a policy as it relates to young people on social media. I thought that was a very responsible statement to make, that we were developing a policy and looking at it, Mr. Speaker. And also the use of AI, Mr. Speaker, another concern that people have about the use of AI. But we are monitoring, we are not living on a rock. We live in the world, in a global world, and government will continue to monitor to ensure that the people of St. Lucia are not unduly affected by these digital and these advancements. But I want to assure the public of St. Lucia, assure them that they will always be able, because I know there are concerns about people getting their money in the bank if they are not digitally literate. I think the time should never come in this country when banks will refuse to give people money because they don't have a card. And Mr. Speaker, just if you can give me a little segue to move a little bit on this bank business, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the banks are ridiculous. They are ridiculous, Mr. Speaker. They're ridiculous, and I'm saying it without any fear of favor, in the way they treat us, PEPs. I don't know if the leader of the opposition will join me in that. Maybe he might not be treated like that. The way they treat politically exposed persons. Mr. Speaker, it is ridiculous. Sometimes it's disrespectful. Again, example, Mr. Speaker. I'm going to give you a personal example and another example, not from a PEP, but from an ordinary citizen. Mr. Speaker, the government paid us our gratuity, all of us, everybody. You know, Mr. Speaker, when you deposit the gratuity check, the bank asks you for a source of funds, a check from the Treasury. They ask you for a source of funds from the Treasury. And when you get them, so they only ask you where you get the money from. Mr. Speaker, this is absolutely ridiculous. It's disrespectful, and it almost makes you believe that public service is an offense. Mr. Speaker, and we're calling on the central bank, although the central bank professes not to control these things, to speak about the compliance officers in these banks, to stop disrespecting people, Mr. Speaker. This is disrespect. Secondly, Mr. Speaker, a baby had a christening party. Some people gave gifts of cash. The mother wants to deposit that money in the bank. Hey, what the bank asked for? The bank asked for a letter saying who is the baby mother. Then they asked for a letter saying who gave the cash. Then they asked for a letter saying who will put more cash in the accounts for the baby. And they asked for letters give the baby's mother's address and the baby's address. Mr. Speaker, a baby open a bank account? You have to find out who will put money in the account for the baby as the baby grows, Mr. Speaker. And what money are you talking about? You think it's $200,000, $300,000? Little money. Mr. Speaker, that again is disrespectful. I don't think there's any namlock or whatever you want to say, Mr. Speaker, that can make anybody, that is disrespectful. This is absolute disrespect that the banks are dealing when they deal with public figures and when they deal with the public. Overreach, thank you. To open a bank account in this country is still overreach. Why? This is absolute, Mr. Speaker, vendors. Go and put $1,000 in the bank. Where you get it from? Who give it to you? How you get it? Mr. Speaker, only in St. Lucia, you know. I'm sure it's only in St. Lucia that this happens, Mr. Speaker, because we take a little power and we stretch it, Mr. Speaker. And I'm making a public statement. The banks must stop disrespecting PEPs and disrespecting people, Mr. Speaker, when they put a few cents in the bank. Stop this. That's not no compliance. You can walk in the street in Miami and open a bank account. I don't have one, but you can do that. So, Mr. Speaker, I just thought I would digress a little to make this point and tell the banks that the compliance officers and the bank managers that they must stop this overreach and this disrespect of public officials. Mr. Speaker, I now come to the other motion, Mr. Speaker. The other motion, Mr. Speaker, is to borrow $22,900,000 special joint rights from the National Development Association to finance a Caribbean efficient and green energy building project. And Mr. Speaker, again, that was stated in the budget address and also in our manifesto, Mr. Speaker, under the rubric investing in clean energy and the future. You will see these are promises that we made and promises that we are fulfilling, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the resolution is seeking the approval of Parliament to borrow special joint rights of $23 million from the International Development Association, consisting of Credit A in the sum of special joint rights $15.3 million and Credit B in the sum of special joint rights $7.7 million for the Caribbean Efficient and Green Energy Building Project. Mr. Speaker, the project aims to address the critical energy and climate challenges across Grenada, Guyana, and St. Lucia, the three participating countries, with total funding of US $131.87 million. That's for all the three countries. The key objectives of the project includes energy savings in public buildings and facilities, increased use of renewable energy in public sector operations, a harmonized regulation and framework to promote sustainable energy, and to build resilience to climate-related events by integrating renewable technologies. Mr. Speaker, one of the major outcomes of this project will be increased access to women in employment in the science, technology, engineering, and maths STEM field, and to reduce the gender gap in female employment for technical jobs in the energy sector. Specifically, The project will provide women with educational support, which is a key barrier to employment in STEM fields, and apprenticeship programs, as well as employment opportunities in electrical, mechanical engineering, and other relevant majors. St. Lucia is one of the 3 islands which will benefit from this project. Economically, through low electricity costs for public facilities, reduced fuel imports and job creation in the renewable energy sector, environmentally, through significant reductions in greenhouse gas emissions and enhanced climate resilience for critical public infrastructure, and socially by improved reliability of essential services such as schools, hospitals, and emergency facilities through power outages or climate events. Mr. Speaker, the project has 3 components. Component number 1, investments in energy efficiency and distributed renewable energy system. This component, Mr. Speaker, will finance the retrofitting public buildings with modern energy efficient systems, installation of photovoltaic systems and battery storage to improve energy reliability and reduce dependence on important fossil fuels. Component 2, development of regulatory frameworks. Component 2 will finance drafting and implementing national policies and regulations to facilitate energy efficiency and renewable energy investments, harmonizing regional standards to boost market integration and scalability, and component 3, capacity building and regional collaboration. Component 3 will finance establishing pooled procurement mechanisms to reduce costs, enhancing institutional capacity for sustainable energy planning and management, implementing gender-focused initiatives to increase women's participation in the energy sector. Mr. Speaker, the terms of the proposed loan facility for the Caribbean Efficient and Green Energy Building Project are concessional, with a service charge of 3/4 of 1% per annum on the withdrawn balance of Credit A only, and a tenure of 40 years, inclusive of a 10-year grace. There is a maximum commitment charge of 1/2 of 1% per annum on the unwithdrawn balance. The funds on the operation will be dispersed in special joint rights and be repaid in US dollars. Mr. Speaker, the final resolution, Mr. Speaker, is the resolution to borrow for the St. Lucia Urban Resilient Flood Investment Project. Mr. Speaker, the resolution seeks the approval from the honourable members of Parliament to consider proposed development credit from the National Development Association, IDA, in the amount of special joint rights 18.5 million, equivalent to approximately US 25 million, to finance St. Lucia's Urban Resilient Flood Investment Project. Mr. Speaker, this loan supports the government's objective of strengthening national resilience to flooding and climate-related disasters, particularly in high-risk communities. The purpose of the loan, Mr. Speaker, is to find a comprehensive suite of flood risk reduction, climate resilience, and disaster preparedness interventions across key urban and coastal communities. The financing will enable the implementation of structural and institutional measures designed to integrate the impacts of intense rainfall, storm surges, and floods in vulnerable areas of Castries and ancillary. Mr. Speaker, St. Lucia has experienced multiple storm events. Remember Hurricane Thomas, the Christmas Eve storm that resulted in millions of dollars of damage and the affecting of thousands of residents. Mr. Speaker, nearly 60% of the population resides in low-lying coastal zones, and 80% of national economic assets are exposed to risks such as storm surge, sea level rise, floods, and landslides. Without significant improvements in resilience, projected annual losses could reach as much as $20 million, rising to $70 million in the medium term. In response to these conditions, the government has strengthened its policy and legislative frameworks, including Disaster Management Act, the National Emergency Management Plan, and National Comprehensive Disaster Management Strategy. The updated National Determined Contribution NDC 3% at February 2025 reflects greater ambition in climate adaptation and hazard mitigation. Mr. Speaker, the St. Lucia Urban Resilient Flood Investment Project focuses on targeted interventions in Castries, Ansari, and additional communities to be identified through technical studies. The project will be executed through 3 components: institutional and system strengthening. Component 1. This includes detailed engineering designs, construction supervision, and strengthening national systems for early warning, drainage maintenance, flood monitoring, and disaster risk management integration across government entities. Component 2, enhancement of critical flood risk reduction infrastructure. Mr. Speaker, these activities under this component will include drainage upgrades, pumping improvements, and flood resistant design in Castries, including improvements to Constitution Park and King George V Park. Infrastructure interventions in Ansari, such as improved river outfalls, sluice gates, coastal defenses, and creation of multi-purpose flood retention spaces. Investments in both grey infrastructure, such as flood walls, pumping stations, and sea defenses, and green infrastructure, including urban green spaces, retention ponds, mangrove restoration, and stream rehabilitation. Component 3, project management coordination. Mr. Speaker, this will finance a project coordination unit for project management, procurement, monitoring and evaluation, environmental and social safeguards management and grievance mechanisms, citizen engagement, and public awareness campaigns will also be supported through this component. Again, Mr. Speaker, the loan is highly concessional, 5% per annum on the undisbursed balances, 0.7, that's a commitment charge, 0.75% service charge, grace period of 10 years, maturity 40 years, repayments 1% of principal semi-annually from 21/6/2045 and 2% of principal semi-annually from 2046 to 2065. And Mr. Speaker, you must note that this credit includes a climate resilient debt clause, similar to the one that we negotiated with the Saudis for the St. Jude Hospital, a climate resilient debt clause, allowing the deferral of principal and interest payments for up to 24 months following a declared natural disaster. This feature provides critical fiscal space during extreme events, including risks of debt distress in times of crisis. Mr. Speaker, the project will yield wide-ranging national benefits, including significantly reduced flood risks in 2 of the most vulnerable communities, that's Castries and Ansari. Strengthen national disaster preparedness capacity, including early warning and drainage management systems, protection of critical infrastructure, tourism assets, residential areas, and economic corridors, improve urban life through green spaces, rehabilitated drainage, and safer urban environments, enhance climate resilience, helping safeguard livelihoods, public infrastructure, and long-term economic stability. Mr. Speaker, the Urban Flood Investment Project represents a transformative investment in the security and resilience of some of the most vulnerable communities in St. Lucia. Mr. Speaker, the government remains committed to strengthening national resilience and safeguarding lives and livelihoods and critical infrastructure through well-designed projects, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, this is very significant, particularly in places like Ansari, Mr. Speaker, and places in Castries where flooding is happens almost every time when rain falls. In Ancillary in particular, Mr. Speaker, the people at Ancillary live in constant fear, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, I just want to tell this Honorable House something. Flood mitigation. There was a flood mitigation program in St. Lucia sometime between 20. It was a World Bank program between 2011 and 2016, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, part of that program was to build some retaining walls in the George Charles Boulevard. That's in my constituency. Mr. Speaker, there's a letter on file. There's a letter on file where a minister of government gave an instruction to the ministry involved to immediately cease work in the George Charles community. Immediately cease work and transfer it to another constituency. As if the people in the George Charles community did not deserve their houses to be protected when rain falls. The letter, Mr. Speaker, is on file. So when you hear people speak and the claims of victimization and people are afraid to vote because they were afraid that people would know who they're voting for. A letter on file. Direct institutional victimization. Written on record because the writer did not know that the people had other plans. So he had the confidence to put it in writing, institutional victimization in writing, and left it in the office for all to see, Mr. Speaker. I can assure the people of St. Lucia that this government will never be involved in that kind of victimization. And these are the things, Mr. Speaker, that we must speak of when people acclaim themselves holy endowed and everybody doing them something because they're so good and pious and they found their road to Jerusalem. They found redemption, Mr. Speaker. But we always remember these things, Mr. Speaker. Written, remove, stop the work in the George Charles Boulevard. Stop it. And move it to another constituency. Shall remain unnamed for now. Remove it, Mr. Speaker. But the people always decide differently, and that's what they don't want to hear. The people decided, and that wall in the George Charles Boulevard has been built, is built, and the people in the area are gaining from the success of that wall. That's why, in spite of what they say and do, the people in Castries East will vote for the same person, the same time, all the time, every time. And that is why, Mr. Speaker, when they went up to Rock Hall and were sitting down eating mangoes, look at the house Pierre give you all. Look at what Pierre give you all. They sit down and were eating mango. Look at what Pierre give you all. You know how the people responded? 4 votes in a box. 4. And you know, they can jump high and they can jump low. They can say whatever they want about me. Go in the box and you'll see 4 votes. Cut, you understand? 1, 2, 3, 4. And no matter how much radio station you call, no matter what you say about me, no matter how you blaspheme me, the record stands. 4 votes in a box. 4. I'm proud of the people. And I will continue to support them. No matter what name you call them, stand up by the road. Pierre make lights go up. Pierre do this. Pierre do that. A man beat his wife. Pierre do this. You understand, Mr. Speaker? That will not help you, because the next time, the next time, Mr. Speaker, the aim is to get 0 votes in a box. From 4 to 0, and call the registration now and say that. From 4 to 0, and you can jump high, you can threaten me, because whatever you want, the record stands. Last election, I got more votes than I got the election before. Beat that. And I am boasting, that's facts. Because they're tired of, on my case, I keep quiet, I do my work on my case every day. Pierre, every day, Mr. Speaker. The record stands for itself. It says, Mr. Speaker, I urge members to support this resolution. Thank you very much.
Honourable members, there are 4 questions. The first is that the Parliament authorizes the Minister for Finance to borrow an amount of US $37,750,000 from the International Development Association, the association, to finance the Caribbean Resilience Renewable Energy Infrastructure Investment Facility project. Be it further resolved that the loan comprises A credit of US $29,100,000 from the association, B, a loan of US $6,660,000 from the association, acting as the implementing entity of the Clean Technology Fund, the fund loan, C, financing of US $1,990,000 from the association, acting as the administrator of the Canada Clean Energy and Forest Climate Facility Single Donor Trust Fund, the trust fund financing. Be it further resolved that A, in the case of the association credit, Roman numeral 1, the maximum commitment charge is 0.5% per annum on the unwithdrawn financing balance. Roman numeral 2, the service charge is the sum of 0.75% per annum plus the basis adjustment to the service charge on the withdrawn credit balance. Roman numeral 3, the loan is repayable in 40 years, commencing from the date of approval of the association credit by the board of the association, inclusive of a grace period of 10 years. Roman numeral 4, the loan is repayable in semi-annual installments on the first day of March and the first day of September of each year after the grace period. B, in the case of the fund loan, Roman numeral 1, the management fee is 0.45%. Roman numeral 2, the service charge is 0.25% per annum on the withdrawn credit balance. Roman numeral 3, the loan is repayable in 40 years, commencing from the date of approval of the fund loan by the board of the association, inclusive of a grace period of 10 years. Roman numeral 4, the loan is repayable in semi-annual installments on the first day of March and the first day of September of each year after the grace period. C, in the case of the trust financing, Roman numeral 1, the loan is repayable in 20 years, commencing from the date of approval of the trust fund financing, inclusive of a grace period of 5 years. Roman numeral 2, the loan is repayable in semi-annual installments on the first day of March and the first day of September of each year after the grace period. Resolution 2. That Parliament authorizes the Minister of Finance to borrow an additional sum of US $5,567,044 from the International Development Association for capital expenditure for the Caribbean Digital Transformation Project. And be it further resolved that A, the maximum commitment charge rate payable on the unwithdrawn financing balance is 0.5% per annum. B, the service charge is payable on the withdrawn credit balance that is equal to the greater of Roman numeral 1, the sum of 0.75% per annum plus the basis adjustment to the service charge, and Roman numeral 2, 0.75% per annum. C, the loan is repayable in 40 years commencing from the date of the disbursement of the loan, inclusive of a 10-year grace period. D, the principal amount of the loan is repayable on each 15th day of April and 15th day of October at a rate of Roman numeral 1, 1% of the loan amount commencing on the 15th day of April 2035 to the 15th day of April 2045, and Roman numeral 2, 2% of the loan amount commencing on the 15th day of October to the 2045 to the 15th day of April 2065. Motion 3, that the Minister for Finance considers it necessary to borrow an amount equivalent to 22,900,000 special drawing rights, the loan, from the International Development Association to finance the Caribbean Efficient and Green Energy Buildings Project. And be it further resolved that A, the service charge is 0.75% per annum on the withdrawn credit balance. B, the loan is repayable in 40 years, commencing from the date of disbursement of the loan, inclusive of a grace period of 10 years. C, the principal amount of the loan is repayable on each first day of March and first day of September each year on the following terms. Roman numeral 1, 1% of the loan amount commencing on the first day of March 2035 to and including the first day of September 2044. Roman numeral 2, 2% of the loan amount commencing on the first day of March 2045 and including the first day of September 2064. And the final resolution, that Parliament authorizes the Minister for Finance to borrow an amount of special drawing rights, 18,500,000, the loan, equivalent to approximately $25 million from the International Development Association to finance the St. Lucia Urban Resilient Flood Investment Project. And be it further resolved that A, the service charge is 0.75% per annum on the withdrawn credit balance. B, the maximum commitment charge rate payable on the unwithdrawn financing balance is 0.5% per annum. C, the principal amount of the loan is repayable on each first day of March and the first day of September, commencing after the end of the 10-year grace period at a rate of Roman numeral 1, 1% of the loan amount commencing on the first day of March 2036 to the first day of September 2045, and Roman numeral 2, 2% of the loan amount commencing on the first day of March 2046 to the first day of September 2065. Leader of the Opposition. Good. Pardon? The member said what? The rules are very clear. It's whoever catches the speaker's eye first.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I objected, Mr. Speaker, to all these bills being laid at the same time. Because while they may have some common source of funding, only in some instances, they're very different. And I leave it to the general public. I'll ask a simple question. Honestly, does anybody really understand what the Prime Minister just presented? Do we have any sense of what the benefit is? Other than the typical resilience and improving environment. But now that, Mr. Speaker, Parliament has decided to debate them all together, then put the information out collectively. I have calculated a number, Mr. Speaker. I certainly would love your concurrence, and maybe even that of the Prime Minister's concurrence, that collectively we're talking about 116 million US dollars is what these motions collectively are together, which is approximately 309 million EC dollars. That's what we're approving. Where are the benefits? Who's articulated the benefits? What's the return? Instead, Mr. Speaker, we get the typical response. When you don't want to deal with the details, when you want to gloss over things, the Prime Minister has a fantastic habit of going on a tour, talking about how well he did in his constituency. 300, no, it's not. It's not burning me, Mr. Speaker. It doesn't burn me because I won my seat. You want me to tell you? And not only I won my seat, I gained ground. So good. So, what's that? What's it? Huh? Scrape through. I got more votes in this election than I got last election. Okay? So the same way I can say that. But you know, Mr. Speaker, that is not what the issue is, Mr. Speaker. The issue ultimately, at the end of the day, Mr. Speaker, is we're coming to this House to borrow $314 million. And I'm sorry, but the explanation the Prime Minister has provided is not adequate. How do I go back to my constituents, Mr. Speaker, and tell them we just borrowed $315 million and explain to them where is it in this bill? Where is it in spending this money that they're going to benefit? Where? Where? And then to make matters worse, that a person that I have respect for in the Prime Minister, a person that I know understands finance, I know, would come here and try to disguise or to make it out to believe that the money that we're borrowing and the interest rates that we got from a development agency, and in a large part, Mr. Speaker, on regional projects, on something as important as climate change and resilience, can equate to the interest rates on the bond market, and want to see that because you're getting 0.5% 40-year terms, as if his government is the first government to have benefited from those kind of loans. Well, let me have news to you. Many governments have, and many more governments will, as long as the international development organizations are in existence, because that's where the monies came from. These are development monies. The issue of going to the bond market is individuals and corporations in convincing them to trust the state. And let me tell you the subtle difference, Mr. Speaker. God forbid, and I'm not saying this in any way to imply that this is on the verge of happening, but if we ever reach to a restructuring program and the loans have to be discounted, guess what, Mr. Speaker? The development agencies, this loan today is exempt from that. But you see the money that people purchase bonds on, that is not. That is what the interest rate is there for. Is a quid pro quo. Is a risk that you're taking. And thankfully, knock on wood, all politics aside, notwithstanding close calls, we have not found ourselves defaulting on our loans, and having to restructure our loans. And for that, I'm proud of St. Lucia, all the governments that have preceded and are hopefully in the future. Because I watched in Barbados, I watched in Jamaica, I watched in Grenada, where they had to go through it. And the formula is the same formula. These loans we take in today would not be qualified under that restructuring program. But bonds and treasury bills will. So for the Prime Minister to even attempt to answer my question about why is it that the threshold, and he's right, the maximum is 7%, but in previous bills it was 6%. At one point it was 5.5%. Today it's 7%. So it's a change upwardly, and it represents that persons are looking for potentially a higher return. And that's why I made the comparison, Mr. Speaker, to what's taking place internationally. Because if in fact, Mr. Speaker, no it's not, interest rates are not rising. See, again, Mr. Speaker, when members on the opposite side want to be able to say truths to try to justify the fact is all of the government central banks rose interest rates and they have since come back down. And they have come back down, and more than likely with the changes that are taking place right now and the agreements that are put in place, and if in fact the fuel prices continue to drop, which I believe that they're at $75 or $72 and dropping, that there'll be even less pressure. The introduction of AI and the impact it's having on the job market. We just saw major corporations laying off 40,000, 50,000 people as they transform into using AI. So the things that we've seen, Mr. Speaker, traditionally internationally, putting pressure on the interest rates, is not there. So I'm just asking the Prime Minister, I'm not making any insinuations, I'm just saying, what is the cause? What is it that your advisors are telling you as to why the maximum has increased? Mr. Speaker, it's interesting that one of these projects, Prime Minister, because I was trying to take notes because we don't have these, we don't have his notes. All we have is exactly what the financing costs are going to be. But the details as to what the project is going to do, what the expected outcome is going to be. So for instance, one of the outcomes I would like to ask is, if you're going to increase the debt by $316 million, what's the impact on the debt to GDP? What is it? Don't you think that the Minister of Finance coming to borrow that kind of money and wanting to put everything in one big bill, one big bundle, would have that number readily? Don't you think that that's an important number? What's it going to do to increase our interest rates? Notwithstanding the low interest rates we're going to have. Because when you go to the social and economic review, Mr. Speaker, you'll see year after year the amount of money that we're paying on interest is climbing. And the budget that we came out with is making a projection of a further increase. We have $650 million that the members of this House came to just before the end of the last parliamentary session to borrow. We're coming today $316 million more. And I know that those numbers were not included in the debt to GDP number of 75%. So, Mr. Speaker, one of the projects he spoke of, renewable energy, in order to attract private sector investment. And I know that one of the things, I don't know if we're going to go through with it today, the electricity bill, but I certainly did not see anything in the electricity bill, and I've not heard any pronouncements by this government that the relationship between the government and the people of St. Lucia and Lucelec from an investment perspective is changing. So you tell me we're going to go and borrow $316 million, and one of the expectations is that we're going to improve the environment for private sector investment? these projects $316 million. How is it going to improve the efficiency in government? We've seen since 2023, Mr. Speaker, a steady increase of recurrent expenditure, debt financing, debt to GDP, borrowing of monies. But what we're not seeing is a commensurate increase in the economy and its capacity. We've seen an increase in revenue from the government, and when one looks at it, Mr. Speaker, it's primarily driven by inflation, because the CIF prices are inflated. We've not adjusted the rates at the port like other countries have. Other countries have simply said, we're going to take the rate on the FOB price and not the CIF price. Simple. But a government that says they're putting people first, Mr. Speaker, have extracted that money from the people. And then tell you, there's nothing we can do. Inflation is outside, I have no control over it, blah, blah, blah. We've all heard the story over and over, repeatedly. Yet, that's a simple thing. The price of oil dropped. Did the price of the gas pump go down? Oh, Mr. Speaker. We use semantics. We put a cap. As if you were preventing the price from going up by putting a cap. But in the instance of this government, they put a cap on to prevent the price from going down. Went down. We're talking about 2-3 years ago, and the price of oil has gone back down. Why have you not dropped the price? Why have you not dropped the price? Okay, the price of oil went from almost $100. Today it's now almost below 70 and declining. So how come the price has not gone down? Mr. Speaker, a simple thing. When Lucia was going to put the surcharge on, the same thing that we did during COVID to protect the more vulnerable people in the society, this government would not do it. They didn't do it. They didn't subsidize the surcharge for the more vulnerable in the society and say to Lucia, we will pay it. No, they passed it on. When you allowed the price of gas to go up, you didn't know that it was going to affect the price of bus fares? You didn't know? And then the most recent thing, Mr. Speaker, in allowing the water prices to go up with very little notice, Mr. Speaker. And I can say to you, it is going to have a devastating effect, initially on your commercial sector, devastating. Because when you talk about the increase in electricity that they've been absorbing for the last 3 months, and now in July having to increase the price of water and sewage, it is going to be a significant... Mr. Speaker, there we go. You know what, Mr. Speaker, the good thing is that the Prime Minister is only reminding us every day that the sentiments that we hear on the ground, that any time that Alan Chastney or the United Workers' Party is saying anything, is to quick the desilting money. Do we want to have that conversation, Mr. Speaker? Do we want to have that conversation? The desilting, which was started, and the idea of the desilting was your government. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, Mr. Speaker, at the time when the desilting fee was imposed, it was the then minister that put it on. Okay? He put it on. And then the persons that had started the negotiation with CDB was the government now. I didn't fire them. CDB came in and did their project. Designed by you. Implemented by us. Okay? And the fact is that there was never a cost overrun. They'll tell you, cost overrun, cost overrun. They can't show it. Want me to tell you cost overrun, Mr. Speaker? Let me tell you a cost overrun. Cost overrun is St. Jude's, where this government said that it was going to take, I'm going to finish this thing, was taking $30 million and 6 months. $30 million, Mr. Speaker, and 6 months. In fact, I'm going to go back to the desilting. And the member now, one of the members said, it's not going to take that much. Some paint and some chemical. But let's go back to the number that they used. 6 months and $30 million. And today, 6 years, Mr. Speaker. Over $350 million. And you're still not in. and you're still not in. Okay? So you know what that's a cost overrun of, Mr. Speaker? 30 million, if you want to say 35 million for easy calculation, to 350 million is a 1,000% cost overrun. Wow. And instead of being 6 months, it is 6 years. And so let's go back to the desilting. So the project was designed, the project was executed on budget. On budget. Sorry? But let's go there. So you're telling me that the desilting design that you approved, that it was intended from day one that they were going to desilt the dam in 1 year? In 1 year?
That's how you lose elections.
Right, 1 year? And what was the project? To put a desilting trap, and that's the first thing that had to be built. It was built on time and in budget. It was on time and budget. And then they commenced the desilting, and the priority of the desilting in first phase was to clear the bottom outtake valve, which it did, which increased the capacity of the dam significantly. Elections came. People supported you. They put you in government. I want to ask you the question. Why did you stop the project? The money was there. The money was there. The same Vinci that you might do the airport with, I don't know, or you might sell Wasco to like you wanted to sell Wasco to last time. They were the same people. The barge was in the dam, Mr. Speaker. They had a decision to make. Continue to lease the dam or buy the barge. Those were the two. Right? They love to go and talk about it. But at the end of the day, the project was on time and in budget. And it was always the expectation that the desilting would have taken 8 to 10 years because you can only desilt during a certain period of the year. But I want you to know, why did you stop the project? You stopped it. Your lovely CDB, best company, best organization ever. How come you didn't continue? They're the ones who designed it. They're the ones who oversaw the consultancy. Why you stopped? Why? And then what did you do for 5 years? You didn't fix pipes. You know, Mr. Speaker, a classic example for me, Mr. Speaker, is during COVID, right? We had the Rodney Bay Road, and when we started the Rodney Bay Road, okay, clearly the pipes needed to be replaced. Because if we're all going to be honest, the persons who live up north, how many times we've passed in front of the marina and see them digging up the same piece of road because the pipe is leaking. And so we went in COVID, got the pipes, brought the pipes here, put them in, and I want to say to you, Mr. Speaker, for $2.5 million is what the contractor charged to put them in. The pipes sat there for 5 years, and it's not until somebody went and embarrassed you all and took a picture of all the pipes just sitting there. And you want to talk about, oh, the water this and the water that. And then all of a sudden now, you go out and issue a contract, no bid, to your favorite contractor, Renault, for $4.5 million, for half the distance. For half the distance. And you say you care about the people, you care about the water distribution, and you don't understand that 60% of the water is being lost. 60, you're fixing it. So how long is it taking you to fix it? Right? So you're telling me the most prepared Prime Minister, who also had been the Minister of Infrastructure before, you also had another Minister of Infrastructure there. It's taken you all 5 years to say, you know what, maybe we need to fix the pipes. Maybe we need to fix the pipes. Okay? Really? That's what you want everybody to believe? Honestly? That's what you want everybody to believe? And you come to the House today and continue the same nonsense. Absolutely no report on how this is going to benefit communities. I certainly can't go back to my constituents, Mr. Speaker, and say, hey, great deal, concessionary loans, and we're going to build resilience. And then, when I hear the Prime Minister repeating some things, I ask myself sometimes whether in fact he really even understands what he's saying. That we're going to reduce mitigation. Really?
And they understand you.
The SIDS, which is there's 43 SIDS of the world, Mr. Speaker, are responsible for less than 0.5% of the global emissions. And while it's nice to say that we're going to emit less, that's not our problem. Our problem has always been the financing to deal with building resilience. And here it is, we're borrowing money to build our resilience. And I empathize with the Prime Minister because I've been out there, we've been to the meetings, and there's absolutely no appetite in changing the global finance rules to support small land developers. None. They made it very clear in 2017 that you have to save money and pay for resilience building and for any impacts by yourself. We have to make that sacrifice. I don't see how this project is helping in that regard. And maybe it is, I don't know. But certainly the Prime Minister, in his presentation, spoke nothing about the details of the project and what the overall impact is going to be. And even if he believed that this project is going to reduce emissions, carbon emissions, never even said how many. So when do we come back here years later and say, was this a worthwhile deal? Because don't come and tell me that this was for free and try to tell us, oh, because it's a low interest rate. This is $316 million of borrowing, Mr. Speaker, that will add to our debt and will have a negative impact on our debt to GDP, and our debt to GDP that is already running away out of control. The members are so quick to say, oh, the debt to GDP in 2020 was 92%. Yes, because there was a contraction in the GDP that anybody with any level of common sense would have known would have changed. It is only the members on the other side who'd never believed that tourism was going to come back. And it did. And by end of 2022, Mr. Speaker, the GDP was $500 million higher than what the GDP was in 2019, going into COVID. And the debt to GDP by 2023, in your own books, was 70%. 70%. Because you borrowed more money between COVID. It's a simple thing, but it certainly was never going to remain at 92%. But what's interesting, Mr. Speaker, is that since then, the debt to GDP as the end of last year was 75%. But as I said, 79%. And as I said, did not include the $650 million. Doesn't include the $330 million that we're now talking about. So what is the debt to GDP now? 85 and climbing? And more importantly, Mr. Speaker, the windfall in revenues that the government have been getting because of inflation and the decision to keep the price of fuel higher than what the market price was and not stick to the numbers that we had. Those windfall revenue days are gone, Mr. Speaker. They're gone. We're seeing in the ministries every year an increase in the amount of money that's going to recurrent expenditure, salaries and wages in ministries. Less and less money going into capital investment, Mr. Speaker. And it's when we come to the House and we allow the Minister of Finance presenting this bill to not have any targets, to explain to us how is this going to improve the efficiencies of the governance of our country, and simply use words like, it's going to get better. What does that mean? And the habit of this government is when it doesn't perform, it's never their fault. Always somebody else's fault. Mr. Speaker, I did not bring up the issue. It certainly was not part of the presentation and in the motions that we saw. But the Prime Minister brought up this issue about PEPs. How did we go from a serious topic of resilience, climate change, and that we're going to be borrowing $316 million to a discussion on PEPs? And I want to say to the Prime Minister, I too go through my situations with PEPs, full of examples. How long it's taken my kids to open up a bank account, over 3 years. The kind of questions the Prime Minister brought up, sure. But the solution to that problem, Mr. Speaker, is greater transparency. We have an integrity commission that does not function. We have boards that are not producing their audited reports. We have no example of where there's been any misappropriation that anybody has been held accountable for anything. And as a result of it, Mr. Speaker, the institutions that are dealing with PEPs is not just a politician, Mr. Speaker. PEPs are also senior government officers, persons who are in a position to be able to make decisions, persons who are making beneficial ownership from government contracts. They get classified as PEPs. But until there is adequate transparency and accountability, and given what is taking place internationally, and banks' correspondent banking relationships are at risk. And for my constituents, a correspondent bank is a very important entity. It's the international entity that allows a bank here to interact internationally. So if you have a credit card and you want to travel abroad, it allows for the payment of processes. You can use your credit card abroad and the monies can be transferred. If you want to transfer monies to families and friends, or families and friends want to transfer money to you, they cannot do it without a correspondent bank. And the laws in America are holding the correspondent banks extremely accountable for AML, anti-money laundering issues. And so when monies are transferred from a contractor who is getting contracts from the government, when they are senior civil servants and they are politicians who are in a position to influence monies to go one way or the other, I'm not making any incrimination against them. I'm just saying that they have that power. And it's that power and that discretion at the end of the day that is the cause of PEPs. And I'm surprised that the Prime Minister would have used this opportunity in this form to cry for the politicians. When in fact, I think that what is taking place with the banks, with the general public, is even worse. Because the difficulty in those persons being open up a bank account who are not PEPs, Mr. Speaker. The bureaucracy that's taking place. Okay? The bureaucracy, the difficulties, the charges, and I know that we have an amendments in the banking bill, and I see that the ECCB is somehow going to be trying to intervene to be able to put regulations on, but that brings up all kinds of legal issues. But we'll get to that. We'll get to that topic when we bring the bill today. Mr. Speaker, I'm sitting here again and I'm listening, and I know you've told me in many times, Mr. Speaker, I'm only supposed to speak to you. But it's very difficult sometimes to be in this close proximity and to hear persons, my colleagues, say some things and not to be able to respond. It cannot be, Mr. Speaker, and I'm going to say no and stand up. It cannot be simply because I am trying to defend the system, bring light to issues, get greater clarification, hold the government accountable to what they're supposed to be doing, nothing more, nothing less, that in attempting to do that I could be classified as trying to be a preventer of development. There's nothing further from the truth. Absolutely nothing further from the truth. Absolutely. So I resent that statement. I reject that statement. I don't accept it. But I'm going to say it to you. The Prime Minister and members on the other side can jump up and jump low, put any kind of pressure they want on me, whatever the threats they want to make, that's fine. But as long as I am sitting in this seat, and representing the constituents of Micoud South, I will continue to speak, and I will continue to hold this government accountable for what they're supposed to do, and not in order to be able to wish their failure. That's the difference. I am not wishing upon them to fail, Mr. Speaker, because their failure is our failure. But if I see that there are mistakes being made, if I see that there's not proper accountability and not proper transparency, and if I believe that the resources of the state are being misused and are not benefiting my constituents by extraction the rest of St. Lucia, then I will say so. And I will bring up the facts. So here it is, I am dealing with what the facts of the situation are, and what you want to continue to tell me is 16-1. That's an old record. Okay? That's an old record. Right? And I said to you, it's not even 16-1. It's 14-1-1-1. If we're going to be, sorry, Mr. Speaker, if we're going to be factual, Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, I heard the member say about that one of the things that they're hoping, and again, these ambiguous things, the improvement of energy efficiency in the buildings. I'm waiting to see the new halls of justice, whether it has energy efficiency. I certainly know it doesn't have car parking efficiency. I certainly know that it doesn't have any financial efficiency. But I'm waiting to see if it's going to have energy efficiency. Our colleague from Grosley, in charge of sports, and we still don't know, Mr. Speaker, I don't know if you know, how much money was spent on refurbishing the Darren Samuel Stadium. Did we put more water storage? Did we put a cistern system in? What are the energy efficiencies that we've put there? And then when you come into the house and you want to talk about solar panels, when we know that the sole provider of what we call purchasing energy is in the domain of one entity, Lucia. I only hope, I didn't see anything that's going to make amendments to that, but I'll wait for the minister's presentation, because I could be wrong. So if we're not going to make any amendments, and Lucia remains the exclusive producer and also purchaser of it, then we're going against ourselves. And then the irony is that they're providing monies to help us to put in proper legislation. So I only hope, okay? I only hope. I'm going to wait for the presentation, okay? I want to hear it, right? I want to hear it. I want to see it, okay? So the end of the story, Mr. Speaker, is we can't be speaking about these things and the legislation and the environment to make that conducive is not there. And as we speak today, subject to us hearing the bill today, that's what it's been. Power purchase agreements have been the exclusive domain of Lucia. Jump high, jump low, no matter how good it is, they get to make the final say. And a fundamental flaw, and I understand why that contract was signed all those years ago. Because renewable energy, Mr. Speaker, renewable energy didn't exist. That contract never took into contemplation renewable energy. So all of a sudden now, they are the exclusive producers, and all these years, they are not, and I'll say this, Lucia has not been working in the interest of the people. And we're paying a very high price for what Lucia claims to be efficiency. And the fact is, Lucia has said publicly, they're saying that the solar farm that they've done in Vieux Fort North has worked and is producing electricity lower. So why is it they have not gone to solar quicker and more? Why is it that we're now in this situation where the price of oil goes up, the surcharge comes in, and the price of electricity goes up, affecting households, affecting businesses and people of the country? How you can tell me that Lucia cares or is acting in the best interest of the people of this country? So I'm looking forward to the debate. And I'm hoping that there's going to be fundamental changes. And I will applaud it. Because we cannot grow as a country paying 40 cents plus a kilowatt hour US for electricity. Cannot. Not sustainable. And you know, if in fact, Mr. Speaker, I am to believe that they're coming to the House today to make this substantial change in the legislation for Lucia, even more so as to why the government did not do more to soften the blow, knowing that it would only be temporary, and to pass on that increase at this particular point. Mr. Speaker, I heard about flood mitigation. I welcome that. I hear that's going to be in Castries. I don't know where in Castries. Here we're hearing ancillary. But one of the places that I know from history that floods the first is Dennery South. Massive problem. Malgretoot. I know Malgretoot. I mean, I know it well. Spent too much time there. Okay? There are so many other needy places. And so I welcome this, but I want again to say the loan that we're taking, Mr. Speaker, is 20 million US dollars to do 2 projects? 2 projects?
That's what you heard?
Well, that's what it is, $20 million.
Components of the project?
For 2, that's what he said. He said the component is going to be in Castries and in Anseret. Well, you see, okay, Mr. Speaker, so it makes my point. So here it is what I heard. And if there's more to it, why didn't the Prime Minister say more? I would have thought that if he's going to be able to help more communities, the first person, because knowing him as a politician he is, the first person that would stand up and say, hey, this money is going to do this, the money is going to do this, and we're going to maximize the return on the money. No, you want to say that I am misleading y'all by saying to you that the interest rates, right, on this are less, and therefore it makes the case that the government is heading in the right direction. I'm going to repeat it. The interest rates that you're getting from development agencies has nothing to do with the financial risk of your country. The rates that you've gotten and the terms that you've gotten, this government is not the first to have obtained monies like that. Successive governments have, and successive governments in the future will continue as long as there is an international economic order. And we can't say that for sure, Mr. Speaker. None of us know what is going to happen to the UN and going to happen to the international organizations the way the world is going. None of us. But I believe that the Prime Minister did all of us an injustice, Mr. Speaker. And that for his political benefit, focused much more on trying to answer my questions about the bonds and treasury bills, and overemphasizing the funding terms for this, rather than really what is going to be the outcome of spending $316 million, explaining to us what the financial implications are going to be on our debt to GDP, explain to us what is the returns that we're expecting. So if you're going to spend $316 million, what is the overall economic impact that you're expecting in return? We've heard nothing. We heard 2 communities, and I'm hearing that there's more, but we only heard 2. That's why I said I can't go back to my community, right, who have not heard. I mean, we have roads in my community, main roads that were redone. Wasco has come in and cut up the roads. We all know the stories that remain there and are creating problems. I don't know what's happening with all these new buildings. What is the energy saving programs we're putting in? I would love to hear this monstrosity that's being built there. $300 million. Really? The rent is going to be $30 million a year. Okay? Right? Really? But you know what the great thing is? It's like with GPH, Mr. Speaker, where we can argue, well, GPH is a great deal and they're going to do so much for us. The people for St. Lucia now can see for themselves. Vendors Arcade, that's what we're getting. and that this government had no confidence in the people or even SLASPA to build vendors' arcades. That you had to go now and give away all of the revenue, allow for St. Lucia now to go to $12 per head tax, almost twice it is of any other country in the Eastern Caribbean, and want to come and tell us you care? And then the continual thing, I did not hear the minister himself, so this idea that you're not answerable to tell people how much for anything? How much? Really? Yeah, you had an opportunity to do a minister's presentation, which is what you typically like to do, so nobody can ask any questions. Right? You don't think by now we know your game? You don't think we don't know? Right? But the fact is we're seeing the same thing repeating here, Mr. Speaker. And I would urge the Prime Minister that when he's making his presentations, particularly when he's borrowing these kinds of sums of money, to leave the politics alone. As he said, December 1st, people came out and voted and made a decision. I respect that. Let's move on. Okay? I have accepted it. Okay? But at the same time, the people from Micoud South have put me here. And there are many other people. Oh, but we'll get there. 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 Where's your director of finance? Huh? Where's your director of finance? Where's your director of finance? Where's your director of finance? Huh? Okay. No problem. He represents St. Lucia. No problem. No problem. You keep on going and saying that. Okay? I always attacking. All right. I will attack that one. Okay? And you want to know about payment? We will get there. We will get there. I'm sure that when you were again giving information, you didn't expect that you were giving the kind of information you were. But we'll find out. And there's more to come on that story, Mr. Speaker. But more importantly, let me get back to the issue. I've accepted that you have won the election, but I also know that I'm here, and like the Prime Minister, gain ground in my constituency. And as long as I'm here, I will continue to represent the people from Micoud South. But also, I just want the Prime Minister again. Put the politics aside. Okay? Put the politics aside. Yes. I've said it forever. And I've put it in practice as well. And you know that. Okay? I'm not bad talking anybody. I'm asking you that when you're going to come to this house to borrow these kinds of sums of monies, to be more accountable and more detailed in what the benefits are going to be. And that's why I started off. I'll end where I started off. I'm not so sure that anybody who was listening to the Prime Minister's presentation is any the wiser. They certainly would not have known, unless they were taking down the notes, that it was $316 million. I listened to them carefully. We went between SDR currency and US currency. At no point were we making any conversions into EC dollars. And if you want to put all four bills together, then put them all together. And I'm asking, if we're asking for a rate of return, and it doesn't have to be in commercial terms, what is it that we're getting? And I just want to maybe give the Prime Minister a little benefit of the experience I had, where I'm sat at the same meetings that he's sitting at the World Bank, and don't even talk about the CDB, who love to come and sell you regional projects. They love that. And at some point, maybe we need to do an analysis ourselves on getting. What's Theo King doing at the World Bank? Members just love to go a volley there. I'm being genuine and legitimate. At the end of the day, when you're taking monies to do regional projects, be careful. And it requires even more oversight. And sometimes that oversight is difficult because it's difficult to find out who the decision makers are. And so they give you these broad subjects. Let me make my point, Mr. Speaker. The blue economy. How much money have we borrowed for the blue economy? Ask the Prime Minister at the time. Ask the Prime Minister. He sat in the front row. Okay, and he got the gloves and everything else. Happy people. All right? All you want to come now and make because it's politically convenient to make the excuse. But at the time it was happening, full support. Ask him, $1 million. Okay? Which was always made public. Never hidden. We told you when we did the what you call the CHA marketplace all those years ago. $800,000. Yes, you good. Your records are there. $800,000. But here's more importantly, you criticized having CHA Marketplace in St. Lucia in 2007, and yet Antigua, all these years afterwards, is doing it back to back. And where are we? Where are we? Where are we in the scenario of things? Right? St. Lucia has taken a back seat when it comes to tourism, but that's for another discussion. Okay, I don't want to go off on a tangent. You've been very kind, Mr. Speaker, in the latitude that you've given me. But I just want to end by, Mr. Speaker, by saying it's important that when we come to this House, that we speak about how we're using the resources of the state, particularly if we're borrowing. And don't try to come and make one comparable to bonds versus development agencies. It's borrowing, it's going to contribute to the debt to the GDP, it has to be repaid, notwithstanding 40 years. But at the same time, our debt to GDP is going to go up, and the higher the debt to GDP goes, the more expensive it's going to make money. That's a fact. And so it has a consequence, particularly if the economy is not growing. So if we're not going to spend this money in an appropriate way, where it is going to affect the economy positively, it means we're going to be at a loss. And that's a fact, Mr. Speaker. So I would plead with the Prime Minister, certainly in his rebuttal, I'm looking forward to hearing maybe more details. Which of the communities are going to benefit? What's the ROI? How much is the debt to GDP going to be going up by? Has he even taken those things into consideration in making these moves? Okay? So I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Member for Switzerland Saltibus.
So what are you going to do? Mr. Speaker, I rise to give my absolute and unreserved support to the Honorable Prime Minister and the Minister for Finance on this brilliant suite of resolutions. Make no mistake, Mr. Speaker, these resolutions will transform St. Lucia's energy and digital landscape, and they will do so for generations to come. And Mr. Speaker, anyway, I will not worry about the member for Mikud South whilst he's not present. But before I turn to the heart of these resolutions, I crave your indulgence, Mr. Speaker, to say a few words about my constituency. I want to thank the people of Choiseul Saltibus again for believing in me, having faith in me, and electing me as the parliamentary representative on December 1st, 2025. It is a day I will never forget and to which I will forever remain indebted. Over the weekend, Mr. Speaker, we celebrated Father's Day, and I was fortunate to have spent time worshiping at church, first in the village of Choiseul and later in Saltibus. I felt very touched by the number of men who showed up, particularly in Saltibus, and was very impressed by the participation in the service and celebrations. So I want to take this opportunity to once again say Happy Father's Day to all the men of Choiseul Saltibus, and by extension, St. Lucia. You know, Mr. Speaker, if all of us men in this society stood up, owned up to our responsibility, and played the role we ought to in the lives of our children, the world everywhere would be a much better one today. While I'm on my feet, Mr. Speaker, I also want to take the opportunity to congratulate the students and parents of my constituency who have completed or successfully completed the final examinations and who have either graduated or are in the process of preparing for graduation. Graduation is just the closing of one chapter, Mr. Speaker, and the opening of another. And I will certainly make it my duty to attend as many of those ceremonies as I possibly can. I also want to take this time to recognize the fishermen in Choiseul Saltibus and St. Lucia as they prepare for Fishermen's Feast, which is coming up this coming Monday. And lastly, Mr. Speaker, I wish to commiserate with all my constituents who have lost a loved one in recent times. Over the last few weeks, we have lost two of our best artisans, two highly skilled tailors, both from the same area of Mongoul, Choiseul. Mr. Speaker, our hearts go out to their families, Choiseul Saltibus, and indeed all of St. Lucia is poorer for their loss, and we honor the skill and craftsmanship they leave behind, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you very much for allowing me these words on my constituency. Mr. Speaker, during the budget debate, we made it clear to this Honorable House that there was a fundamental difference between borrowing to survive and borrowing to invest. Well, Mr. Speaker, if anyone in this chamber or listening at home wanted absolute proof of what astute leadership looks like, they only need to read the documents before us today. But apparently, the member for Micoud South does not understand that word astute. And I don't know if the member for Micoud South is just disingenuous or if he is actually probably needing some Louis Coco. Because you know, Mr. Speaker, the older people will tell you when you start losing your mental faculty, you drink some Louis Coco daily and it restores your memory. You understand? Because you would have never thought that, and I know he can understand it because it took him 15 years to understand one term. So I'm pretty sure he'll understand Louis Coco. Will, just will. Yes, but the fear mongering is not helpful. And this is the same gentleman who would have moved a gas tax from $1.50 to $4, and people asked to bring it down. He said no. I don't know where the memory has gone to. The money that was allocated for desilting of the dam, most of it was used up and only 8% was done. None was put into the infrastructure of Wasco, and now you complain about the pipes are leaking. At that time, if you had prioritized the pipeline, the infrastructure of Wasco, we would not have been in the position that we are today. So this is either disingenuous or trying to fearmonger. I mean, we are investing in three transformational projects. The Caribbean Resilient Renewable Energy Infrastructure Investment Facility Project, which we refer to as the RIF, is one. Secondly, the Caribbean Digital Transformation Project, the CADTP. And third, the Caribbean Efficient and Green Energy Building Project, CGEB. That's how they call it. So let me start with the RIF, Mr. Speaker. This is a World Bank funded facility, and St. Lucia is not undertaking it alone. We stand alongside Grenada and St. Vincent and the Grenadines in a regional partnership designed to do what no single small island can easily do on its own: attract serious private capital into renewable energy at scale. Because renewable energy always brings a lot of capital investment up front. Mr. Speaker, the problem this facility solves is one every citizen already feels in their pocket, probably not the MP for Micoud South. Our region depends on imported fossil fuels for roughly 9/10 of our energy needs. That is why our electricity tariffs are at the mercies of international geopolitical forces. Not because we lack sun or wind or geothermal potential, because, Mr. Speaker, we have all three in much abundance. We lack because the regulatory frameworks have been unclear, because individual projects have been too small to attract serious investors, and because our grids need modernizing to take on more renewable power safely. So when you try to fearmonger people and make them believe that what we're doing is not right, that's disingenuous. And I am so understanding now why our mandate was increased so significantly. Because how could you have someone who wants to lead the country who's not understanding that our renewable energy penetration needs to be more? You're saying that it's costing us 314 million to do it. Have you ever thought of the cost of not doing it? Mr. Speaker, we need only to look at our telecommunications sector to see why resilience matters. When a single network experiences disruption, whatever the cause, the public feels it immediately. Commerce stalls, banking slows, even government slows down. Families struggle to reach each other. But where there is a second independent system to carry the load, the country keeps functioning. And Mr. Speaker, this is not theory. Every one of us in this honorable house lived this in recent history, in recent days. And you all know what I'm speaking about. So what is true for telecommunications, Mr. Speaker, must also be true for our energy grid. A nation does not build its critical infrastructure around a single point of failure. Why then would we build our power supply around a single fuel source? Tell me. Because when you don't support us strengthening the grid, moving in the direction of renewable energy, you're actually saying that we should be supporting the single source of fuel that currently exists. The RIF tackles all of this head on, Mr. Speaker. For a multi-million-dollar regional facility, it will aggregate small renewable energy projects across our islands into portfolios large enough to attract major international developers. And we know in that sector they talk about bankable projects. So if the projects are not within scale, it does not attract these developers. I don't know if the Lil Coco will help the member for Mikud South. But these are terms I've heard him use before. It establishes a risk mitigation fund that will guarantee up to 75% of commercial bank loans for renewable projects, de-risking the investment so our private sector partners can move with confidence. And critically, Mr. Speaker, it funds the hard infrastructure, the transmission lines, the substations, the battery storage systems our grid needs to handle more solar and wind without blinking. He asked for details, Mr. Speaker. But if you are using an alternative source of energy like the sun, PV, it is intermittent because you have cloud cover. So in 1 second, you have all the luminous intensity that you require, and in the next second, you have a cloud cover. So these inconsistencies, these variables, you need the infrastructure in place to mitigate the effects of those. So you need to build your grid to respond to this. Because now you have a single source of fuel with a spinning reserve. So you have people at a control looking at just this. But when you have distributed energy, you would have energy coming from different points on the grid, and you need to be able to manage that. So you need to strengthen the grid. I want to highlight one feature of this project that speaks to where this government's priorities lie, Mr. Speaker. Built into this facility, like Prime Minister said, are scholarships and apprenticeships for women in STEM, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, opening doors into our energy sector that have, for too long, stayed close to half of our population. The numbers tell the story, Mr. Speaker. Nearly 60 megawatts of new renewable capacity and over 100,000 metric tons of carbon emissions avoided every single year. I guess that is of no value to the member for Mikud South. But beyond the numbers, this is about a power grid that can take a hit from a Category 5 hurricane and keep our lights on. That is resilience. That is what this facility buys us. But Mr. Speaker, we cannot ask the private sector to invest in renewable energy while government does nothing for itself. And that's the point he's trying to make and fearmonger people that government is doing nothing for itself. But if he understood the Caribbean Efficient and Green Energy Building, the CGEB program, it is telling that government must lead by example. And once again, Mr. Speaker, if anyone doubted this Prime Minister's reputation for astute leadership, the terms of this investment should settle that matter clearly. Look at the terms negotiated by our Prime Minister with the International Development Association, the IDA. A grace period of 10 long years. 10 long years, members. 40 years to repay. 40 years to repay. A service charge of just 0.75%. 0.75%. And let the record reflect, Mr. Speaker, a service charge, not interest. Not interest. This is a strategic fee structure designed simply to cover the administrative and operational costs of managing and servicing the loan over its lifespan, rather than stripping our treasury to generate a profit for commercial lenders. So I don't understand why the member for Mikud South, or in fact, I should say, I understand why the population voted him out so badly. Because who would have wanted someone like this to lead us in the times that we are right now? We are in the times where the world is talking renewable energy. Mr. Speaker, what our Prime Minister has done there, that is a masterclass in fiscal negotiation. That is the hallmark of a Prime Minister who is deeply respected on the global financial stage. And we on this side are proud to follow that visionary lead. But Mr. Speaker, what exactly are we financing with this highly concessional, low-cost financing of 22.9 million special drawing rights? We are financing the Caribbean Efficient and Green Energy Buildings project. And as the Minister with responsibility for public utilities, I'm incredibly proud to be part of this transformative initiative, and I know my colleagues are as well. Mr. Speaker, let me break this down for the common man and the member for Mikud South. Every citizen in Choiseul and in Saltibus and across the length and breadth of St. Lucia, probably except the member for Mikud South, knows about the brutal impact of external geopolitical forces on our local cost of electricity. And on one hand, he wants us to get out of that, but on the other hand, he does not want us to make the investments that will take us out of where we are. I'm lost, trying to figure him out. When global oil markets fluctuate, our people feel the squeeze on their utility bills. Those geopolitical factors are things we have absolutely no control over. What we do have control over, Mr. Speaker, is how efficiently we manage the energy consumed right here on our soil, our very own soil. And we, in this government, want to take the definitive lead. We are not just talking the talk, we are walking the walk, Mr. Speaker. We are starting with the state's own infrastructure. For decades, our public servants have been operating out of, one can argue, old, structurally inefficient public buildings. We are talking about legacy wiring that bleeds power, outdated fluorescent lighting, and inefficient legacy air conditioning systems that run constantly, leaking cold air through uninsulated windows. I don't know if we have this situation here, Mr. Speaker. I doubt it very much. But I know Parliament is going to be very futuristic in short order. Mr. Speaker, this project reverses that decay. With this facility, we are comprehensively retrofitting our public buildings. We are installing modern energy efficient building systems. We are putting advanced solar photovoltaic installations directly on government roofs. Now, Mr. Speaker, some may ask, and he, member for Mikud South, has asked, why now? Why this technology? I don't know if he knows of a different technology that the world has not found. Because, Mr. Speaker, photovoltaic systems, commonly referred to as PV, and distributed energy resources are evolving rapidly, becoming more efficient by the day. We are no longer in the dark ages of renewable energy. Battery technology has advanced exponentially, when we used to rely on old, cumbersome lead-acid batteries. I'm pretty sure you know what a lead-acid battery is, colleague. When we relied on old, cumbersome lead-acid batteries that required massive ventilated footprints for storage and degraded rapidly in our tropical heat, we can now deploy state-of-the-art lithium iron phosphate lithium iron phosphate systems. These modern setups, these batteries are compact. They're inherently safer and boost vastly superior life cycles. So before, in the olden days, when you saw these renewable energy systems, they had batteries almost my height. And that was one cell. So to get 6 cells, because it will be about 2 volts, you need 6 cells to make 12 volts. So you have 6 of these things, and you need a small forklift to carry them. But right now, it's like the size of a car battery. The technology is moving, and it's leaving our friend behind. I feel for him, you know. No, seriously. When we pair that with smart grid-tied inverters capable of real-time, what you call volt VAR, that is voltage and reactive power, you have that regulation, we ensure an incredible result. Now he wanted the details, so I'm giving him the details so he could understand what volt and VAR means. The reactive power, but he might be watching me somewhere on his phone, you know. So we are dealing with voltage and reactive power, the regulation of it. When our public buildings inject clean solar power into the national grid, it stabilizes the network rather than disrupting it. And we have to understand that. Furthermore, Mr. Speaker, we will introduce variable refrigerant flow. That's what you call VRF air conditioning systems. That's what you need in here, Mr. Speaker. These advanced HVAC setups use inverter-driven compressors to dynamically scale cooling based on real-time room occupancy. So no longer will we be running cooling systems at 100% capacity in empty offices or when there's just 2 persons in the office. So these systems are smart enough to understand the room and the dynamics of the room, and they can work in a way that they will use less energy when you so require. So this is where we go in, and these are the moves that government is making. This is high precision engineering, meeting sound fiscal policy, Mr. Speaker. This initiative is going to slash the government's electricity bill so that we can take those millions of dollars in recurrent savings and redirect them into our healthcare, into our education, and into our roads, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, le gouvernement a sauvé l'argent. C'est pour bénéfice Jean Place là. C'est pour bénéfice Jean Place nous. Pour mettre l'argent ça dans l'éducation. Mettez l'argent ça a dit dans santé c'est mon nom, a dit dans chimie, moi j'ai chimie. Et moi ka parler créole because à présent leader of opposition commence à comprendre yon mot parole en patois après 15 years. Après 15 années, yon mot en parole. Rien. Rien. You tell me the first word you learn in Creole is rien? Is that an indication of what's going on that side? Rien. Mr. Speaker, help me understand it. For our colleagues in the room, rien means nothing. And imagine if you were to learn your very first word in a new language and it is nothing. That tells you something about yourself. There is nothing there, Mr. Speaker. Oh my God. But Mr. Speaker, we cannot stand at this podium and preach to the private sector about going green, reducing the carbon footprints and adopting renewable energy if the government's own house is not in order. So this is what CJEB is about. And I said, Mr. Speaker, we must lead by example. This project proves to the region and to the world that St. Lucia is serious about climate change. It proves we are serious about energy independence, and it proves beyond a shadow of a doubt that we are serious about protecting the taxpayers' purse. The Prime Minister has secured the funding on terms our predecessors could only dream of. My ministry stands fully equipped and ready to execute the work together with their colleague ministries. Mr. Speaker, I have spoken of energy, but our transformation does not stop at the power grid. It extends into the digital infrastructure that will carry St. Lucia's economy into the next decade. That brings me to the third pillar of this suite of resolutions, the Caribbean Digital Transformation Project. Mr. Speaker, this is again a multi-million regional initiative, bringing together Dominica, Grenada, St. Lucia, and St. Vincent and the Grenadines under the OECS to build a digital economy that works for everyone, government, business, and the ordinary citizen alike. Mr. Speaker, think about what this means in practical terms for the people of Choiseul Saltibus. It means modernized telecommunications regulation. Modernized telecoms regulation so that the service quality our constituents pay for is the service quality they actually receive. It means digital government platforms, like Prime Minister said, civil registration, passport applications, tax filing, accessible without a single bus ride into Castries. That's what it means for the people of Choiseul Saltibus. And if that is not detailed for the member, I don't know what is. And it means a deliberate investment in digital skills as well, colleague, so that our young people graduating from school today are not left behind into tomorrow's economy, but are equipped to compete in it. Mr. Speaker, the project also strengthens our cybersecurity and data protection frameworks, because as we digitize and digitalize, we must also defend. And it ensures that when shocks come, whether a hurricane or otherwise, government can restore critical systems quickly and get financial assistance to our people digitally without delay. And the Prime Minister has assured us, with these digital systems, we still will be able to cater for the persons who can't transact business digitally. The reassurance is given. Mr. Speaker, energy and digital transformation are two sides of the same coin. A more resilient, more efficient, and more modern St. Lucia. Together, these three projects represent exactly the kind of astute, forward-looking governance that Prime Minister has built his reputation on. These projects will transform this country in ways we have never before seen. Mr. Speaker, 20, 30, 40, maybe 50 years from now, when a student visits this modern parliament building to read the Hansard for a political science project, that student will discover that the benefits they enjoy in 2056 or 2066 trace back to the visionary leadership of this Minister of Finance, the member for Castries East, the man who had one man get 4 votes in one box, the Honorable Philip Joseph Pierre. I once again thank the people of Choiseul Saltibus for choosing me to represent their interests in this august chamber. I thank my family for their unwavering support, and I thank the Almighty for the health and strength to carry out the duties entrusted to me by my people. I proudly support these resolutions, and I thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Minister for Finance.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you. Mr. Speaker, as usual, the member, the leader of the opposition, is not there because, as is his style, Mr. Speaker, he gets on his feet, says whatever he wants. Whatever he wants, and says it with a confidence that if you do not know what he's saying, you believe him. A few facts, Mr. Speaker. He says he got more votes this time than last time. That's not true. That's not true. Anybody will look in the results of the elections and you'll see he got less votes this time than last time. Simple. Easy to prove it. He lies. Next one, Mr. Speaker. He says that we came here and we spoke about SDRs and didn't convert it. Not true. Motion. Resolution stated the motion, and whereas the Minister of Finance considered it necessary to borrow an amount of SDR 18,500,000, the loan equivalent to approximately $25 million US. It's there in the resolution. He comes and he says, we never said so. Not true.
Remember, Mr. Prime Minister, to be fair, he said he never heard it. That he didn't say you didn't say it. He said he never heard. You make what you want out of that.
He could have read it, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, he just gets up and says whatever he wants. And he says it with a level of confidence. Let me say it again as he comes from to here. Mr. Speaker, he said he got the leader of... Let me sit down. The leader of the opposition said he got more votes this year than last year. Not true. False. You could look in the results of the elections, you see he got less votes this year than last year. Not true. One. He said so. He got, you see, it's true. Oh Lord. How you can deal with a man like that? Mr. Speaker, I mean, I just finished that. Because I just finished that. I guess you made it already. Right? A simple thing. The election results are published for everybody to see. You come and you stand up on your feet in the record, I got more votes this than last time. Not true. Now you come and say it's true. Secondly, the government, we come and you say SDRs, we never explain what it is. Resolution. The borrowing amount of special drawing rights, $18,500,000. US dollars, $25 million in the resolution. Not true. You come and you said, we just say SDR. Not true. Comes back with the speaker and says that we say that we have one seat, 16-1. That's the same guy. The opposition has lost their right to speak. After it was 11-6, you said we've lost our right to speak. But right now, you have one seat. You barely win, but you don't want us to say you have one seat. And you talk about politics. We had 6, you had 11. You said we lost our right to speak. Let's go. Everything you said, every word you uttered here this morning was not true. Let's go again. You said that we issued bonds at 7%. In 2020, your government, issued bonds at 7.5% with 6 years. Your government. You said that we are breaking Nukakase Yuchansik Patahin. We are breaking the Virgin's arm, Nukakase Pat La Vierge, because we are saying the maximum of 7. You, in 2020, you raised the bonds at 7.5%. You. Let's go again. You said that you're speaking about the debt to GDP ratio. When the country was hit by COVID, before COVID, St. Lucia had the highest debt to GDP ratio in the region, in the OECS. Really? Yes. When you were Minister of Finance, when the country was hit by COVID, St. Lucia had borrowed the most in all the OECS. I have no explanations to you. Let's go again. You speak about mitigation. When we came here and we decided about the Sovereign Wealth Fund for adaptation mitigation, you criticized it and you want to take us to court. But you are saying now that we must save for mitigation and we must save for resilience. When we try, you the one who came here this morning and spoke about saving for mitigation. When we passed the Sovereign Wealth Fund, you criticized it. I want to take the government to court. You. Let's go again. You said that when I'm speaking, and you know, the thing with you is the way you take little things and you say it with your accent and you try to make it sound as if such a big thing. I made an aside about the banks and the PEP. You made a big story. Oh, this and that. We, today in this house, we are passing bills We are passing bills to improve transparency and accountability. But you went to the OAS and you said that transparency is too burdensome. It's too onerous. And you came and you said you never said so. Again, you said you never said so when the world had you. First of all, you said, I never went to the OAS. When they taped you, when you were taped as saying that transparency was too onerous, you said you didn't say it. When they taped you, say it's not you. You. Let's go. You said that the dam, the Roseau Dam, was started by us. You said so. You said so. The report from the World Bank says 8.67% of the Roseau Dam was desilted after you spent $52 million. Now, let me tell you something about desilting. I will jog your memory a little bit, because you come there, you say, you know, you speak as if you are sanctimonious, and everybody is so bad, and this government is so wicked, and then you did nothing wrong. It's the people like that were wrong that go to other government. Let me tell you what a civil servant wrote about you and your desilting. I'm speaking about the desilting of the Sarot, the Ravine, Poisson, and Vanad intakes. Let me tell you what a civil servant wrote about your management of Wasco. Further, it is rather disconcerting that the rate arrangement and the magnitude of the overall invoice submitted to the government of St. Lucia. Now, not like you, I'm not going to say whose name is on the invoice, because you always come here and you call people's names. Innocent people who can't defend themselves. You always attack civil servants. You've never heard me attack any civil servant or any policeman. Never. I spent a whole election campaign. I never mention your name. But you come and you critic, you call people's names, you spoil people's careers, you attack people's children. You all can't. Let me tell you what they said about you and the government that you run. Further, it is rather disconcerting that the rate arrangement and the magnitude of the overall invoice submitted to the government of St. Lucia for settlement has been resubmitted to Wasco without the approval of a senior engineer from your ministry. Considering the source of the contract. Now, I won't tell you, I never mention anybody's name, the source of the contract. But you know who? Because you say you remember everything. Also, with the experience that Wasco has with this type of service provided on countless occasions, it is customary and indeed industry practice to hire such equipment on an hourly and daily basis. We are familiar with rates as high as $300 per hour for this type of work, and given the scope of work, the resultant invoice suggests an unconscionable hourly rate. Unconscionable hourly rate for the decision of the Sarot and the Vanna intakes. And you have the audacity to come and accuse people of all kinds of things. You never said a word about it. Never said a word about it. And we're going further, because everything you say, every time you open your mouth and you say anything, your history, and that's what you don't like to understand. Your history, what you say about me is speculation, but your history is what determines. When you went to the OAS and you said that transparency is too onerous, you said it. Further, you said we did nothing to reduce the cost of living. But before you cost of living, let's talk about interest rates. You make the point. After you presided in the government, 7.5% interest rates. But the point I was making when I tried to relate borrowing at concessionary rates to the 7% is that when somebody invests in a bond and they ask for their money back, you have to pay them at 7%. So that actually is a borrowing rate. That's a fact. But you know, the leader of the opposition comes and he says these things, mixes them up, makes them sound nice, just to try to discredit other people. But that is simple. And you compare that to the concessionary rate that we pay over 40 years, which will help our cash flow. But with a bond, if somebody says that they want the money, you must give them back the money immediately at 7%. That was the point I was making. That was a simple point, making the comparison between the two. But you come and you give the impression that what I'm saying is not true when you know very well. When you know very well what I'm saying is absolutely correct and accurate. Now, you make absolutely no relationship between inflation and interest rates. For you, inflation is not a phenomenon. No relationship. Then you say interest rates are going down. Again, a simple fact. Let me read for you what's happening to interest rates throughout the world. European Central Bank from 2% to 2.25%. The European Central Bank raised rates for the first time in nearly 3 years, driven by inflation expectations. Bank of Japan, 0.75 to 1%. The Reserve Bank of Australia has raised interest rates 3 times this year to 4.35%. The Norway Central Bank rose rates in May to 4.25%. The Bank of England kept interest rates steady at 3.75% in June. The U.S. Federal Reserve is expected to hold rates for the rest of the year, with a possible hike at the meeting in December through to January. The Reserve Bank of New Zealand does not meet until early July, when markets see an increase in the current 2.25% rates as likely, with more later in the year. The Bank of Canada has held its policy rate at 2.25% last week, saying there were few signs that higher energy costs were spilling over into broader inflation. That's what happened in interest rates. But the leader of the opposition comes to the Honorable House and tell people that interest rates are decreasing throughout the world. I mean, why must you do that? Why must you do that? When the facts are interest rates are not decreasing. They're not decreasing, but you come and you stand up and you say it with a kind of confidence. Because you believe, as you said before, the truth is what you believe it to be. Further, the leader of the opposition he says that no relationship between interest and inflation. Doesn't speak about it at all. No relationship. No relationship between rising oil energy costs, rising supply chain costs. No relationship. Nothing. Nothing about it. That's not in his lexicon at all. That don't exist. It's because of us, the Labour Party. We're the ones causing it. No relationship. Makes a story about electricity costs and Lucia. But when we are coming to this Honorable House to pass legislation to limit or to get involved in renewable energy, you stand up and you say you heard nothing about how the bill will help us. In one breath, he's talking about high electricity costs. One breath. We come into this Honorable House. We borrowed money to pay back in 40 years. But we've just to discredit or to try to discredit. And when we tell you that the value of your discredit is because the people of St. Lucia have said differently, you get annoyed. You get annoyed. Because you are the ones, you cannot come in a debate and be in opposition and make a statement, look at the facts, give the pros and the cons, and behave like the king's lawyers of opposition. You have to denigrate somebody. You have to attack somebody personally. You have to bring in something that's simple things. For you, the country must always be in a mood of annoyance. There cannot be a light moment in anything. For you, fâché. You must always know. So what you see, you take little things, you take seconds of a speech and make it appear as if it's history, and your surrogates outside run with it. Mr. Speaker, the leader of the opposition says that we've done nothing to reduce the cost of living. Is this government that removed the service charge on essential goods? Only last week we were in the Dominican Republic. We went to Cotad to keep the removal of import duties on certain goods. Only last week Friday we did that quoted. But you won't tell the public of St. Lucia that we belong to a common external tariff, and the goods that come into this country have one tariff. So we have to go to Quoted to remove that tariff. We did that last week and we were successful. We removed St. Lucia. Again, the leader of the opposition will never tell the public of St. Lucia. St. Lucia is the only country that does not pay VAT on electricity. He will not tell the public that, but he will tell the public that we've done nothing to reduce the cost of electricity. What we are saying, we are saying that we also, by removing VAT or by not having VAT on electricity, we constantly subsidize electricity. We constantly do it because we have no VAT on electricity. All the other countries that you cite in, they have VAT on electricity. But tell the public, give the whole story. I am not carrying any. I'm not carrying any. I have no skin in the game, as far as Lucia is concerned. But you must state the facts. State the facts. High electricity costs, of course, we complain about high electricity costs. But that's what we are doing by that slew of bills that we are passing to see if we can reduce electricity costs. But you attack it. You say that you see nothing in it for your constituency. Your constituency doesn't pay for electricity. Your constituency don't have women and children that benefit from the STEM program. Later on in this honorable house, we are going to be keeping the VAT, no VAT on building supplies. Absorbing the VAT and building supplies. You say we do nothing for the cost of living. We're doing that in this house. That's going to be done later this afternoon. I mean, why must you be so? Just get up and say things. Just get up and say things. So, Mr. Speaker, I'll tell you something. I'll tell you something. Anytime this government, any policy that this government embarks on, every cent that we borrow, what is in our minds is the people of St. Lucia. When we improve the quality of life of the people of St. Lucia, when we improve the standard of living for the people of St. Lucia, we do not talk about the return of investment. We don't speak about it, but when it comes to people's lives, when it comes to people's well-being, there can be no return of investment. No wonder the leader of the opposition said that your patrimony is in your credit card. But that is the thinking. That's the thinking. That's the mentality. Your patrimony is in your credit card. Everything is what you can get for it in terms of money, not in terms of people development, not in terms of how it will cause the child of the poor lady in Juga to have no fear that they will be able to write their 5 CXC subjects. No fear. So the mother can be confident that their child will be able to pay their 5 CXC subjects because the government is paying for them. Mr. Speaker, nothing on that. Everything is what's the return on investment. So when we speak about electricity savings, when we speak about renewable energy, when we speak about investment in people, you want to attack the messenger. Don't attack the messenger. Don't attack the messenger. And you are the ones. The opposition always accuses the Labour Party of being anti-democratic. But when we speak about what's the results of the democracy, you complain. You complain. So, Mr. Speaker, I give full support to the legislation that we passed here this morning. And further, when the Minister of Energy will deal with the electricity bill, you will see how the electricity bill is not going to be perfect. It's a stage thing. It's work in progress. It's not going to be perfect. It's a stage thing. But we are taking the bold steps. We are taking the bold steps. You complain about the House of Justice. You know very well the inordinate rents that the government pays every month and every year. Up now, government's offices, they are offices that government must rent. When we decide that we're consolidating all these offices in one building, you complain. Not telling the public of St. Lucia that after 12 years, that building is going to belong to the people of St. Lucia. And when you pay rent, the building will never belong to the people. It will continue to raise the return of investment of the owner of the building. That's what will happen. Tell the public that. No, the public should not know that. Should not know that. And you call no respect for the country, and that you call the bill a monstrosity. That's how you want. When we modernizing castries, you call it a monstrosity. That's what you sing. That's what you sing. The people of St. Lucia, they don't deserve it. We don't deserve a city. We don't deserve a city that can be the pride of the region. You call it a monstrosity. But you have more monstrosities to see. Because this parliament building is going to be reconstructed and to make it one of the nicest parliament buildings in the OACS. That's going to happen. So what you will have to see a House of Justice. You have to see a beautiful park in front of the cathedral. And the Minister of Tourism will invest in the Martyr Shrine, in the cathedral. We're going to invest in that, and we're allowing the church to do what it has to do. Then you're going to see this building there, and hopefully we're going to be thinking about renaming the Cadet Street to the A.F. Valmore Street, for us to give prominence to a local businessman. And who knows, we can probably, who knows, if I'll tell you something. They have other businessmen that you can name their but if the sons should be better, you understand? We could do that. Because these businessmen have made a contribution to St. Lucia. So we could do it. We have them. I call the Enchibo HRDC. I call it the Romanas Lancigo HRDC. So we have the maturity to do these things. You understand? So that is what that will look like. And I know you won't like it to happen because it are you doing it. So you have a new building here, then you have the park, you have Sojourn, and just remember who put Sojourn there. Just remember that. We were the ones, right, Senior? It was under us. We did not say, because you see, we know the difference between adversaries in politics and enemies. But your politics is a politics of enmity. Not adversarial politics, enmity, calling people's names, attacking people's children, going on this. That's your politics. But the adversary doesn't mean enmity. So we are the ones who put Sir John on this, on Constitution Park. We were the ones. And there was a ceremony. We were the ones who did it. We are the ones who did it. So what you will not want to see is this whole place transfigured. You will see a lovely park. You will see a new building here. The printery will be there. I'll tell you something. You know, Mr. Speaker, it hurts me. They had vendors in rats, vendors of garbage all around them. We are transforming the same man who talks about debt. We are transforming the vendors' arcade, transforming it to put these vendors in a better place to work. You come here and you criticize it. So you don't want the vendors to have a better place to work. Not good for them. You criticize it. But you are the same one. You who have signed several agreements to improve the vendors arcade, and they never came to you must ask yourself, why all the investments that you signed, why all the things you had in the pipeline never happened? And you're supposed to be the man of big confidence and nobody knew nothing. Why you could not get one investment to come into being when you're Prime Minister?
Tried twice for
Royal Caribbean twice. You tried to get them to work on podcasts. Nothing. Twice. And everything that's said, you have an excuse, and you call us excuse when we are the ones who deliver. So, Mr. Speaker, I don't want to come here every day and make this, but the leader of the opposition, by the things that he says and the things that he puts on the record and the things that people repeat because of what he says, it is my solemn duty, because that's the same leader of the opposition who says transparency is to honor us. Same man. But he comes and you say, if you listen to the leader of the opposition, you believe he's never Prime Minister, you know. You believe he came from heaven, he landed on the earth, and he found a wicked government. That's how he behaves. He was never Prime Minister, never. He didn't do anything. He never called people names. He never personally attacked people. Personally attacked me. Not once, not twice, or 3 times. But I don't carry any grudges. And what annoys him is when I say the people are the ones who judge me. That annoys him. And that annoys them when I say that. But they are the same people who say that we lost our right to speak. So I'm not stand up here and be sanctimonious. But he stands and says he never did anything. I mean, there are more up to on Newsmaker Live. The things that leader of the opposition said, I wondered where he was. I said to myself, this guy, what he said, Minister, member for Chozel, where you have Glocoko, Wheel Coco. I mean, I was wondering, where was this guy talking about? Where is he? What country is he living in? What? You understand? But he stands there and he says these things with a kind of confidence. I think he went to acting school. Because a man can't stand up and just say things. I got more votes this time than last time. Not true. I mean, you haven't got to go into any school. Just, Mr. Speaker, I thank you.
Honourable members, the questions are as follows. That Parliament authorizes the Minister for Finance to borrow an amount of US $37,750,000 from the International Development Association, the association, to finance the Caribbean Resilient Renewable Energy Infrastructure Investment Facility project. And be it further resolved that the loan comprises A, a credit of US dollars 29,100,000 from the association credit. B, a loan of US dollars 6,660,000 from the association acting as the implementing entity of the Clean Technology Fund, the fund loan. C, financing of US dollars 1,990,000 from the association acting as the administrator of the Canada Clean Energy and Forest Climate Facility Single Donor Trust Fund, the trust fund financing. Be it further resolved that A, in the case of the association credit, Roman numeral 1, the maximum commitment charge is 1/2 of 1% per annum on the unwithdrawn financing balance. 2, the service charge is the sum of 3/4 of 1% per annum plus the basis adjustment to the service charge on the withdrawn credit balance. 3, the loan is repayable in 40 years commencing from the date of approval of the association credit by the board of the association, inclusive of a grace period of 10 years. 4, the loan is repayable in semi-annual installments on the first day of March and the first day of September of each year after the grace period. B, in the case of the fund loan, 1, the management fee is 0.45%. 2, the service charge is 1/4 of 1% per annum on the withdrawn credit balance. 3, the loan is repayable in 40 years, commencing from the date of approval of the fund loan by the board of the association, inclusive of a grace period of 10 years. 4, the loan is repayable in semi-annual installments on the first day of March and the first day of September each year after the grace period. In the case of the trust fund financing, 1, the loan is repayable in 20 years commencing from the date of approval of the trust fund financing, inclusive of a grace period of 5 years. The loan is repayable in semi-annual installments on the first day of March and the first day of September of each year after the grace period. I now put a question: as many as of that opinion say aye. As many as a contrary opinion say no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it. Second question is that Parliament authorizes the Minister of Finance to borrow an additional sum of US dollars 5,567,044 from the International Development Association for capital expenditure for the Caribbean Digital Transformation Project. And be it further resolved that A, the maximum commitment charge payable on the unwithdrawn financing balance is 1/2 of 1% per annum. B, the service charge is payable on the withdrawn credit balance that is equal to the greater of 1, the sum of 3/4 of 1% per annum plus the basis adjustment to the service charge, and 2, 3/4 of 1% per annum. C, the loan is repayable in 40 years, commencing from the date of disbursement of the loan, inclusive of a 10-year grace period. D, the principal amount of the loan is repayable on each 15th day of April and 15th day of October at a rate of 1% of the loan amount commencing on the 15th day of April 2045 to the 15th day of April 2045, and 2% of the loan amount commencing on the 15th day of October 2045 to the 15th day of April 2065. And now put the question: as many as of that opinion say aye. As many as of a contrary opinion say no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it. The third question is that the Minister for Finance considers it necessary to borrow an amount equivalent to 22,900,000 special drawing rights, the loan, from the International Development Association to finance the Caribbean Efficient and Green Energy Building Project. Be it further resolved that A, the service charge is 3/4 of 1% per annum on the withdrawn credit balance. B, The loan is repayable in 40 years, commencing from the date of disbursement of the loan, inclusive of a grace period of 10 years. C. The principal amount of the loan is repayable on each first day of March and first day of September each year on the following terms. 1% of the loan amount commencing on the first day of March 2035, 2, and including the first day of September 2044. And 2% of the loan amount commencing on the first day of March 2045 and including the first day of September 2064. I now put the question: as many as of that opinion say aye. As many as of a contrary opinion say no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it. And the fourth question, that the Parliament authorizes the Minister for Finance to borrow an amount of special drawing rights, $18,500,000, the loan, equivalent to approximately US $25 million, from the International Development Association to finance the St. Lucia Urban Resilient Flood Investment Program, and be it further resolved that A, the service charge is 0.75% per annum on the withdrawn credit balance. B, the maximum commitment charge payable on the unwithdrawn financing balance is 0.5% per annum. C, the principal amount of the loan is repayable on each first day of March and first day of September, commencing after the end of the 10-year grace period at the rate of 1% of the loan amount commencing on the first day of March 2036 to the first day of September 2045, and 2% of the loan amount commencing on the first day of March 2046 to the first day of September 2065. I now put the question: as many as of that opinion say aye. As many as of a contrary opinion say no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it. Leader of Government Business.
Mr. Speaker, I beg that this House stand suspended until 3:45.
Honourable members, the question is that this House do stand suspended until 3:45 p.m. I now put the question: as many as of that opinion say aye. As many as of a contrary opinion say no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it. Sitting suspended.
Nous venons au bout de session, ça c'est le premier pas en session, ça c'est aujourd'hui côté Parlement. Ça c'est qu'il consiste qu'à discuter plusieurs différentes motions. Aujourd'hui, le bon matin, Virgile, ça nous est, c'est Parlement discuter cinq motions. Pour une première motion, c'était pour ça nous a créé l'argent crédit. Si vous voulez dire comme ça, côté gouvernement qui a gardé sur ça, amassé l'argent, mais moun qui a acheté, mais c'est crédit. Avec, pour un certain temps, avec c'est en valeur commun. Ça c'est. L'argent, c'est en valeur 49. Mais ça fait créole là, comment? Oui, 49 millions de dollars. Ok, ça c'est l'argent que dit. Mais après ça, avec ça, il est important aussi comprendre, le ministre a dit, l'argent là, c'est, il y a joué l'argent là à 7% en l'intérêt. Ça veut dire, on a dépensé l'argent, on a acheté avec les, pour certains temps. Ou qu'à jouer l'argent, mais ou qu'à jouer 7% l'intérêt à ce ça où j'ai dépensé. So, ça dépassé bien, mais aussi, ouais, aujourd'hui, plus bonnet, 40 gouvernement aussi prêté 49 millions de dollars. Ça, c'était, à tenir 4 motions, c'est 49 millions de dollars pour aider l'argent obligé que le Premier ministre et aussi nous avons une autre motion pour 850 millions de dollars aussi. Avec après ça, nous avons l'autre. Ça fait, là, il y a 4 différentes motions. Peut-être que ça aller en tous ces différents détails là, mais ça qui était intéressant, c'était pour yo guaper ensemble, mettre ensemble, passer yon par yon, yo mettez yo ensemble. Il can aller plus à l'aise et plus vite comme ça. C'est seulement ça que j'ai discuté pour aujourd'hui avec, vous savez, comme la coutume, chef face à l'opposition. Enfin, deux membres, à part du Premier ministre qui présentait ces motions, nous, l'autre monde qui parlait, c'est deux membres seulement, c'est côté chef face à l'opposition qui m'a parlé pour soutenir coups avec aussi m'a parlé pour choisir et Saltibis aussi parler à ces motions là.
Yes, Michael. So as Michael said, just a quick recap. There was the motion 1, where the Prime Minister is seeking to sell bonds to assist to raise approximately $49.5 million to assist with the budget cycle. There was also a refinancing and the issuance of those bonds. So guys, just a quick recap. We had a little technical difficulty there. So the motion 1 saw the Prime Minister speaking on the issuance of bonds to raise approximately $49.5 million to help with the budget cycle 2026-2027 and also to refinance the $856 million which is existing treasury bonds. The Prime Minister made it clear that this was not additional debt, but this was just a refinancing. And as Michael said, motions 2 to 5 were consolidated, so the Prime Minister dealt with them as a collective because those motions 2 to 5 dealt with financing for the energy, renewable energy, the diversification of the energy, and also with the digitalization of the country's economy under the Caribbean Digital Transformation Project. So there we have it, a quick suspension until 3:45. So don't forget to join us back here at 3:45 for a continuation of the discussion in today's Parliament.